On this episode of Between Two Beers, we talk to Jeremy Christie. Shay, who is Jeremy Christie?
Well, he's the only player to have played for New Zealand's three professional clubs, the Kingz, the Knights and the Phoenix. He played 27 times for the All Whites and was the captain of our under-17s when we hosted the World Cup in 1999. In 2013, he played Mexico at the Azteca, and just like that, his football career was done. He went on to a career in medical sales in the US and has popped up now back in football as a CEO and director of coaching at FC Highland in Orlando.
Yeah, it was a great episode. Jeremy talked about playing in front of 100,000 at the Azteca despite not having a club. He spoke about being the face of that 99 World Cup and his experiences with Kevin Fallon at Mount Albert Grammar. We talked about his influential relationships, living with Winston Reid for a year when he was in West Ham, his best friend Tim Brown and his genius mind, and the lessons he learned from Ryan Nelson at the 2010 World Cup. We also spoke about why he walked away from the game at a relatively young age. Great episode. Jeremy has a lot to say about life on and off the field and was a terrific guest. Hope you enjoy this one. You can watch on YouTube or listen on wherever you get your podcasts. Enjoy. Jeremy Christie, welcome to Between Two Beers.
Thank you, man. I'm excited. I've been listening to the previous episodes. So I'm excited to get the chance to come on here and have a chat with you guys.
Awesome. We're looking forward to it too. It is midnight here in New Zealand. To get in link, it's quite difficult to sync up times because it's 8 a.m. where you are in Orlando. We understand you're cracking into a coffee right now and perhaps may join us for a nice morning brew along this journey. Yeah, exciting times. Shay, why don't you get us started? How do you know Jeremy Christie?
Well, until about 2 hours ago, I actually thought Jeremy was the older brother of Nathan. And I feel, sorry, man. I had to literally go onto the New Zealand football database and check the date of birth.
Have you seen him?
Well, I don't know now because I was thinking, I first came across Jeremy at under 13 rep tournament in Topol where I grew up. But then I second guessed myself and thought, shit, maybe it was Nathan. But was that you at that tournament? I think you guys won it.
I think so. But then when you said we won it, I'm starting to doubt whether that was us. But maybe. How old are you?
I am 38, 1982.
Okay, I'm 37. So, and he's 81. I'm 83. So who knows?
Well, here's a question. Did you ever play reps with Darren Cripps?
Yes.
Okay, definitely that tournament then. We go back to 1994, maybe, and then I relived with Jeremy with Jeremy in the All Whites when I was kind of doing that management role. But Stevie, this is the first time you guys have met.
Yeah, strong start, guys. Getting Cripsy in the intro. It's always a good way to lead off. I have never met Jeremy. This is the first time we've spoken. I know Nathan, and I'm not sure if that's a good reflection of you, Jeremy, or not. No, I enjoy Nathan's company. We went on a tour together to Brisbane, so that's as close as I've got to the Christie clan. But yeah, obviously watched a lot of your career and games. Played for the Knights and the Kingz and the Phoenix and the All Whites. So yeah, seen a lot of you, but excited to get into the nitty gritty. The place
we haven't, by the way. I feel like the soccer community in New Zealand is fairly small, and we know we're similar probably age and know a ton of the same people. So it's bizarre that we haven't, previously met. But glad we're doing it now.
Here we go. So, place we want to start is 2013. You had spent 6 years, I think, by looking at our books as a professional player, but you were back playing at Waitakere, and this was the year of the World Cup qualifiers against Mexico. So you went back to Orlando and you were unattached before the two-legged game. And I just want to read out this quote from one of the preview pieces that was run in Stuff, I believe. Shay's pulled it from the archives. And it says, this is you. I trained with Orlando City when their league was going, but they've finished. So I'm playing in a local league. Christie said before the team flew into Mexico. It's not ideal, obviously. You want to be playing at the highest level possible, but throughout my time with New Zealand, I've played in some big games, Confederations Cup, came on a couple of times at the World Cup. I'm 30 now, I've been around for a while, so I'm not nervous, I'm excited. I feel pretty calm about everything. Obviously, I owe the coaching staff a lot for giving me the opportunity, and it's up to me to repay them and show them that I've made the right decision. And then there's a quote from Michael McGlinchey, which sort of says, well, he's come in looking a lot fitter. So talk us through that experience, because you're playing in a local league. Is that like a Northern League equivalent? Am I doing a disservice there to the level you were playing at when you've been plucked out of relative obscurity to play in the biggest game and to start in the biggest game in a All Whites 4-year cycle? Talk us through that experience and how unexpected that call-up was.
Honestly, I guess for that game, because we'd been on the trip like a month earlier, I guess from that regard, it wasn't unexpected, because I'd been on that trip and started a couple of games on that tour when we were in LA. So when Mixer rolled around, I kind of knew that I was going to be in that squad. Conversations with the coaching staff, but yeah, I mean, the level I was playing at wasn't great. It was, but Orlando as well as the greater area is a couple of million people. So it's 3 million people. So it's a local league, which is fairly, there's a lot of players here, the game's growing and stuff. So it was a bigger league than, because of the size of the city, than, it would be, say, in New Zealand. But it obviously wasn't ideal preparation for an international. I was, we always had a joke within the squad. We used to have a joke that there's a lot of players who play for Unattached FC. Like, every tour, there's like, you look down the list and there's the clubs and there's unattached, and we'd always have a laugh about that. So
there were two of you playing for Unattached FC on that tour.
Oh, really?
Lockheed was unattached as well.
Yeah, so there was, and every tour there was players who weren't at clubs. It just kind of was part of, I guess, New Zealand football that back then, at least, that other countries probably didn't have. So I think I played, and I don't remember this exactly, but was that the year we played Jordan earlier in the year? Like in New Zealand, we played there's like a local group.
Yeah, that's right. It was a New Zealand A game, I think, and Jordan came over.
Yeah. Okay, so I'd been playing, I guess, at Waitakere, and, speaking with Ricky and that, and they said play in this game in Jordan, because I've been injured for like a year and a half. So to kind of come back into that, I guess, back into the group for that game, see how I did. And then obviously I was back in the US because Waitakere had finished, and no one was really playing in that league. And then when those games roll around, it was coming to the games in LA, and see how I go, and if I'm doing well and everything, then to get back involved. And I think at that stage he was trying to recreate 2010 a little bit, and trying to bring in some players who've been there. Now that we're going to go and play Mexico, it was like, well, let's bring in at least players, and we went back and played the same formation that we played in the World Cup. So I think he wanted players who are familiar with it. So in that regard, I mean, I understand and I see why it was maybe surprising from some people, but from within the squad and from my point of view, I thought that I was going to come in and thought that I'd play because of that trip, a month before.
But that was it, right? So you played the game at the Azteca and then didn't play in Wellington, and that was the international career over, right?
Yeah, and I kind of beforehand I thought, and I've seen a lot of players, and we've all seen them who carry on playing and kind of hang in there. And same thing. I'd been in the UK looking at some clubs, but everything was a year contract, and money wasn't great and everything. So I'd kind of decided even before those games that if we qualify, then I'll go and play somewhere. But if we don't, then I'll kind of call it a day. And I actually had something lined up. Like I was thinking about my career after football at that stage, especially when I've been out for so long, and what am I going to do? And had some friends here in the US who are doing in like medical sales and were doing really well. Like, it's pretty lucrative. And they're like ex-athletes and stuff like that. So I'd spoken to some people, and I kind of had something lined up if we didn't qualify. If we did, then I would have kept playing, and then obviously not qualifying. I was like, all right, perfect. What a way to finish. My last game was at Azteca in front of 100,000 people. Result aside, it was a pretty cool experience at least. So I thought, it's my highlight of my life and my career was always national team. So then after that game, I was like, well, my time's probably up anyway, especially when I saw some of the players coming through, so many talented young guys coming through. So I thought it was a good time to hang it up.
That's a lot riding on one game. You know it's going to be 100,000 people. It's the World Cup qualifier. Your career's hanging in the balance. What's the night before that game? Are you full of nerves? Are you not able to sleep?
Not really. I mean, I think I was. That was a difficult one. Most games I felt like we were prepared. Like previously in my career, World Cup and stuff like that, I felt like we were really prepared. So I was able to go to sleep, like relax. That game was, I think we knew we were a little bit. The preparation was terrible. Like we had a couple of days in LA or something before we went to Mexico. Like we had no time together. Winston got injured right before, so then with him not playing, I can't remember who filled in, but everything we'd worked on that month before kind of went out the window. Had to move players around, and so I don't know. It was kind of like what will be will be. We'll go out there and do our best. And we hoped we had like a game plan in terms of frustrating them, and they'd been struggling with results and everything. And the plan was just to get the fans on their back and get them. We weren't going to go there and outplay them. So we had a team meeting beforehand and like the night before, and everyone just kind of talked about, that it was a massive opportunity. It could be the end of an era for a lot of players, like the last cycle probably for a lot of guys who've been involved in 2010 and stuff like that. So I don't think it was, there were too many nerves. It was more excited to play there and everything, more the day of the game and getting out there and seeing it was a little bit more, you realize what's at stake, but I don't feel like there was too many nerves at that stage. Plus I was old and, us guys have been through the previous cycle. And obviously there were some big games in that. We realized that the reason we were successful back then was because everyone was pretty calm. Ryan did a great job before games of kind of putting everyone at ease and the mental side of the game and taking away that scared factor. So I think, that was more my mindset at the time, was what an awesome opportunity, maybe go to another World Cup. Obviously it wasn't to be, the game didn't pan out that way, but beforehand I was fine.
Yeah, so the game plan was to try to keep it tight, unlikely to win, maybe snatch a draw or keep the score down and bring them back home. Was it quite deflating after the 90 minutes, talking what you've just spoken about, knowing the bigger picture, 5-1, you're not coming back from that, likely the career over sort of thing in terms of professional football? Like, did that all hit you at the final whistle, or did it take a while for that to process?
It didn't really hit me at the time. I mean, that's the one thing that I didn't miss, and I don't miss playing a whole lot. You can play anywhere. I miss the teammates, the locker room, that kind of stuff. So I was still seeing all them. I was still around all my buddies and stuff at the time. I think that and it was deflating because of the result. It was more deflating like the performance and kind of how it went down. As a team, we were, it wasn't going to plan at halftime, but we were like, okay, we're still in this. And then, we actually changed some tactics and stuff at halftime, and it killed us immediately. And then it was kind of game over. And obviously, I came off, I don't know how long in, second half, and then goal. And then, you can just tell like the energy just drains out of the squad, and like, oh, well, that's it. So it was, I don't know, it was deflating. But it wasn't, I guess it didn't all hit me that, oh, well, shit, this is the end. My international career's done and everything like that. Football career's done. I guess
and was it the whole football career done as well as international? Did you ever play kind of club football again after 2013, or that was it?
That was it.
Wow.
Yeah, I played. There's a lot of stuff here in Orlando, and I mean, if I'd have been, say, in New Zealand, I would have kept playing, for one of the local clubs or whatever. But over here, I didn't love the leagues over here because you're playing against a bunch of guys who just kick the shit out of you, and they take it all. Not that they take it way too seriously, but it's I don't know. They get these fights and stuff. It was just wasn't the most fun atmosphere to play in. So at the stage when I'd finished playing at in those bigger games and at bigger levels, high levels, to go and play on a park somewhere with a bad ref, bad football, bad pitch, and just getting kicked by people. I did it for like a couple of weeks, but there was no fun in it. So that was me done, and haven't looked back.
Quite young quite young at age 30 to give it away. I mean, obviously you could have played for a number of years. Were there times when you'd still pick up an odd friendly game, or a bunch of lads would go for a seven-a-side and you'd still get amongst it, or was it pretty much a clean break?
No, I played like a lot of indoor. Like there's indoor thing here, but it's more a group of friends who go out and you play in like an indoor competition and, you know, have a few beers afterwards. Like it's a lot more of a social aspect, but it's still like a pretty good level. There's actually, Orlando's got this crazy community of ex-professional players from all over the world. It's really cool. It's like an underground kind of group. And even I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago, there's a lot of Brazilians here. And one of my friends, he like played in France, he called me and was like, "What are you doing tonight? Can you come down?" Like Ronaldo R9 has an academy here. He said, "Can you come down to R9? Roberto Carlos is in town and we're going to get like a game together with some ex-players." I was like, "Shit." So I go down there and, you know, there's like 3 teams of 6 and I'm on his team and we're just playing like a couple of hours. Have a break, he'd go grab a beer in between games. And we just kind of down there playing. And there's a lot of that. There's a ton of these ex-players. I was at Cheesecake Factory a while ago and I saw Rivaldo. Like as I'm walking out, he's walking in and just completely like no one notices him. No one knows who he is. I'm like, fucking Rivaldo.
Did Rivaldo recognize you from 1999 at the gala in Brussels?
No, he didn't. I should have taken my hat off. He might have like recognized me then. But yeah, that was it's bizarre, man.
What's Roberto Carlos's body type like these days? Because I feel like he kept that rig under tight control. He was looking to break out of those sort of shorts and those big chunky thighs.
Those thighs
that had the potential to really sort of blow out if he wasn't on top of things. Is he keeping it under control?
He was in phenomenal shape. His calves are like this big. His calves are this big. But nicest guy in the world and just out there having fun. Like it's Kaká lives here. It's just like this crazy community. I was playing with this one little same kind of thing, little fun tournament thing, and these 2 Venezuelan guys were there. And someone told me this guy's name is Ricardo Paez. They're like, Ricky played for Venezuela national team. I'm like, I played them in like 2000 and something. So I was speaking to him afterwards. I was like, "Do you remember playing against New Zealand?" He was like, Yeah, I played. I scored 2. That guy there, he scored 1. I was like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, that was a 5-minute match. Just like these people are here. It's bizarre, man.
Amazing.
Did you ever? There's a rumor going around that you got Ronaldinho's shirt after the Brazil game in Switzerland. Did you ever think about throwing that shirt on and wearing it down for the kick around?
No, but sorry, that's my. I've got an automatic feeder for my dog. Just went off. But no, I mean, I should. Here she is. Yep, right on cue. No, I should do that though. I need to bust that out every now and then. It's just sitting in a drawer. But we have Marta, you know, the women's player. So she lives here, and her partner is like the director of coaching for my club that I started. So Marta's always around. She comes down and like joins in with the kids' training and stuff like that. Like it's kind of a little hotspot of soccer here in Orlando. So that kind of makes me feel like I'm still, you know, involved in everything.
Fascinating. Well, it's an interesting little end to the career, but I want to go right back to the start because growing up, there was one event which really sort of captured my imagination. I think I was about 14, 15 at the time, but you were the face of the junior whites?
Young All
Whites. The 1999 Under-17 World Cup, you were the captain. You guys were all like celebrities to me as a youngster, and I'm sure talking to some of the older generation, it was huge. And you were such a memorable part of that. And that was all closely linked to Kevin Fallon. You guys all trained together at Mags. You know, was that the first wave? How long had Kevin Fallon been at Mags before that group was together, or was that the sort of start of that quite dominant period?
I think he was there maybe no more than like 2 years prior to that. So yeah, I think I went there in 98. He might have been there in 96 or 97. So it was pretty fresh. Yeah.
And so what an incredibly talented group. Some great names that have sort of come to dominate New Zealand football from that team. Being the captain, how did you earn that position? Did you have real leadership ability as a 17-year-old? Were you just the best player in the team at the time, or why do you think you got given that honour?
probably none of the above. I think I don't know. I just, I'm from Whangarei, where, kind of blue collar, like hardworking people. And I think Kev, he appreciates that. I think, he's from, north of England, Rotherham, where it's about that, just roll up your sleeves and work hard. So I think I had a little bit of that in me. So I think that's probably why. I don't know. I remember when we started, we actually, Winton was taking the team to start with when we were, I guess, under 16 to 98. And he took us to Europe. We went to like a tournament over there. And I think Rory was the captain. At that stage, he was still involved. But then when he left, went to the UK, Kev took over. And yeah, I was obviously playing for him at school as well. So he got to see me up close and personal. And I guess I was just kind of honest, hardworking, not very flashy, not very, not the flashiest kind of light in the team, but I worked hard and I was fortunate enough to be captain. But that was weird, man. Like you said, the kind of getting a lot of media attention. We had to do like media training, and being the captain, it was cool, but I had to do so much. Like it was not embarrassing, but it was, even at the time, I felt like this seems like a lot. Like my teammates were always giving me shit because I've got to go and do this. I was going on like TV things and doing interviews after games. And it was just, I don't know, I just wanted to play at that stage. Just wanted to get out in the field and work and play, and then you've got to go and do the other stuff. But I mean, it was cool, and what an amazing experience, like playing in that tournament and everything leading up to it, all the preparation. For me, again, being from, small town Whangarei, no New Zealanders had even, I think no Northlanders had ever even played for the All Whites. Maybe there was one guy like 20 years previous who'd been in the under-17s, and he was well known around the city because he played like a couple of games for the under-17s. So it was kind of unheard of for someone from there to to make a national team. So to do it and be able to captain the team was pretty special. How I got that role, I don't know, but it was a huge honor and an amazing experience.
How we had Maya Jackman on a few episodes back, and she talked about moving from Whangarei down to Auckland. How was that for you? I guess smaller town into big town. Did you know anyone else that was at Mags? Like, how did that all play out?
Honestly, I was thinking about this the other day, and when I first went there, it was terrible. I was in the hostel, boarding school at Mags, and I was, fifth form? When I went down there, which I don't know, what is that now, year something?
Year 11 for the new listeners.
Yeah. So I knew I played against some of the guys at tournaments. Rory, I knew from being in like tournaments and stuff, but I didn't know him well. He was like the enemy. He was a dick as well when he was younger. He's like my best now, but man, he was a dick. I remember they beat us. He was playing for Western Bay playing, and they beat us in this, what's the Ware Rose Bowl, like the big tournament. And they beat us in the semi-final, and then they won the final. And as he went up to get the awards, he walked past us and was like, "Better luck next year, boys," like giggling and stuff. But he, so I knew him, but didn't particularly like him at that stage. But the rest of the boys we had, like in the hostel, I first went there, and there was the dorm rooms at Mags. You got like some single rooms, some double rooms, and then there's like the big open area for the third and fourth formers where there's like 20 people on bunk beds. So my parents take me down there, and the guy takes me into the hostel. Okay, you'll be in here, and I'm in the big like 20-person dorm room. And I've had my own room at home since I was young. So I got the top bunk, and I got to go there, and it was like just place was stinking all the time. It was so I wasn't happy for the first bit. Then I got moved into a 2-person dorm. But once we got out in the field training, and all those guys that were in the hostel there, and Mags, by the way, was all of the kids from Wellington, from Christchurch, from the big cities. Most of them went to like Auckland Grammar. Some went to King's. The Mags was all like the farmers. It was people from Whangarei, people from like
Budgie was there, wasn't he? Carl Budgeon was there from Hamilton, moved up.
Budgie was there. Sanjay Singh from Taranaki. Alan Pearce, who was at like Mana, playing for Mana at the time. Tristan McCormick from Wanganui. Who else was there? I'm missing, but we're like a bunch of like the kind of the farm people. But it was awesome, man. Like those guys to this day, like I speak to Percy still like quite a bit. Sanjay I haven't spoken to in a while, but he's I feel like he's like a brother to me. Like
Does Sanjay live in Whangarei?
He does now, yeah.
Yeah.
Which
I have not seen. Like I was saying to Steve before we came on, like a little bit like him, but because I was the same age and I was in some of those regional tournaments, I buzzed off that. Like used to play against Sanjay when he was a kid. It was like for me, it was awesome. It was such a cool tournament. It was just it was wicked. It really started my kind of love affair with football.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was crazy.
When you're 16, 17, you're sort of highly competitive against those you're surrounding yourselves with. Obviously a team full of talent, but was there anyone that stood out at the time that you all thought this guy's definitely going to have a career as a professional? Was there like a big gun of that squad?
I mean, Mully was already playing like over in England, and Mully was and like always was throughout his career an incredible player. He was the one probably where like he's got the most talent. Like he's definitely got the most ability. Alan Pearce as well was a star in that team. You know, he was pretty raw, but he was like a monster chasing people around up front. I would say those two were probably like the two that, in my mind, were the high quality players. Like
was there anyone in the group that where you kind of you look back now and you think, how did they not make more of their career?
Not really. I mean, so many of that team went on and played, you know, for the national team and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I mean, like, you know, Stephen Turner was a really good player. I don't know if you remember him. He was a like top quality, like technically really, really good, super smart player. He was really good. Pritch as well. You know, I feel like Pritch was a heck of a player. He could have gone on and probably done a little bit more. He had the quality too, for sure. So other than that, no, I mean, a lot of Lockie went on. Obviously had a long career. Davey Rayner played in the UK for a bit. Sanjay, I guess Sanjay's one for sure. He should have gone on and done more. He was an awesome player. He was a little monster. I remember we played for Mags against Auckland Grammar in one game, and he got, like, those were big, crazy rivalries. He got smashed in the head, and he had this huge gash, like massive gash in the back of his head, and they just put like some Vaseline on it, and like off you go. He went back out there and played, and after the game we go back to the school and the hostel, and the nurse or whatever there was like, you carried on playing with this, you need to go to hospital immediately. So he was like a little warrior someday back there. But that was a special team.
Sorry, we've had a lot of guests that have come through Kevin Fallon's school trainings and things. Do you feel like a lot of them have said he's been such a huge influence on their career, and sort of he introduced them to a different way of training and a different mentality and a more professional environment? How much of your success as a footballer do you credit to those formative years under Kevin?
Most, if not all of it. I can't speak highly enough about him. Most people, like I know there's a lot of stuff that gets said about him on the negative side of it, but anyone who ever played for him, I don't know of anyone who played for him who kind of says anything negative about him. Especially, you know, for us who were trying to go on and do something, you know, professional in the game. His program at Mags when I was there, it was professional. It was a professional environment. Everything we did. So when I went to the UK from there, it was a step up in quality a little bit, but it wasn't like a step up in terms of demands of what we had to do. So he was hard, but he prepared everyone for, you know, for those who wanted to go on and play. Because I think a lot of the problems with players is they, you know, making that step up and the intensity and the demands of professional football. Some people can't, you know, it's tough. Some people can't handle it. Like it's ruthless. So he taught us that at a young age. Like it's ruthless out there. You can't have any sort of softness to you. You need to know that people are going to be hard, but he teaches you kind of how to overcome all that stuff. So he was really hard on me. I remember we played a game, and one of my friends was picking me up to take me to the game, and we were late, and he hammered me for it. There'd been an opportunity in Germany when we went over there with our under 16s, and he kind of went around saying stuff about everyone, and he was like, "Lucky you." He's like, "Better bring in my ass. You'll be pumping petrol at BP and Whangarei." That's what he something like that to me. I was 14. I was 15 at the time, like nearly in tears. But he was funny like that, and then the boys would always make fun of me, like, "Oh, hey, how's BP doing? Having fun of that one stuff." But yeah, he was hard. But man, like all the preparation, everything is down to him. I think most players who played for him will probably say the same thing.
So one of my strongest memories from that tournament is the game against Poland. I can't remember the striker's name, but I think he was a bit of a big gun at the time, one of the stars of the tournament. And, big game, must win, whatever, the whole country was behind you. You're the captain, and you go and you rattle him early doors, like a really sort of scandalous tackle for a start of the game. Could potentially have been a red card, but I think you got a yellow. Was that a game? Was that a Kevin? Yeah, was that? Do you remember this? Was this you? Was this Kevin Fallon game plan? That didn't happen?
It's a Mully thing.
It sounds like something I might do, but I can't remember doing it or if I was told to do it. Probably. I mean, that does sound like, some tactics like early on smash him. So that might be accurate.
We might have to go through the archives and see if we can verify that.
Well, before we leave the tournament, there's it's like an old wives' tale that I kind of heard, which was before the first game, was there an altercation between New Zealand and the US, like in the lobby or in the elevator or in the team hotel before you guys played? Or was that just, that never actually happened?
I can't remember. The USA team, they were cool. Like, the weird thing about that tournament was the team stayed in the same hotel. So all four of our group were in the same hotel. So it's bizarre. You're seeing everyone in the lobby all the time. Like when you go into the games, you're both waiting in the lobby to get on your own bus. Like it's weird. But the USA team were pretty cool. I mean, we had a party afterwards, and one of the players who lived in South Auckland, like Papatoe, we had it at the end of the tournament. I mean, we had these postcards that all had like the team photo on the front. And we're in the one of the suites at the final, and everyone was writing the address of this party, like New Zealand team party, and just throwing them like over the balcony into the crowd at the harbour. The party was in this I won't say his name. Actually, I will. Daniel Trent. It was
got to be obvious. There was only one player from South Auckland in that team.
So at his house, actually, we probably shouldn't say that because we got a couple of kegs. And like they had a boat shed out the back, and his uncle was like a DJ, and it was like the most like South Auckland party you can kind of imagine. And the American team, like we told them about it, and they all come all the way down from like the city. It's like a 30-40 minute cab ride and like 3 or 4 taxis and pull up. And they walk in, and you can tell they're just looking around like, what the fuck? What kind of Landon's playing in the already he was at Bayer Leverkusen at that stage, like playing proper fit, and he's in this party in a boat shed in South Auckland. And finally, this is bizarre. So last year the USA played Canada here in Orlando. And one of the players in the USA team, Aguchi Onyewu, like he lives here in Orlando. I've seen him around a few times, but at that game,
drop that guy.
You were?
Onyewu, beast.
Yeah, thanks. He's a good dude too. He lives here. So I'm looking out on the field after the game, and there's this big group of guys, and they're getting like a photo taken and everything. So I was talking to Boydie, because Tyler Boyd was playing for the US. And I asked him, I'm like, who are all these guys? And he said, it's the 20-year reunion of the under-17 World Cup. He's like, that's the whole thing. I was like, that's the whole thing? And then as I was walking out of the stadium, they were all on the concourse, and I saw Aguchi, and he kind of brought me over and introduced me to everyone, and kind of saw everyone like, how bizarre is this? The opening game, we played them in New Zealand. And then they were talking about that party. They were like, we remember that. That was awesome. Like, you guys liked it? We're kind of embarrassed to this day that we invited you guys.
Amazing. So off the back of that tournament, you were part of a contingent that went to Barnsley. So I think there was 5 of you: Darren Young, Rory Fallon, Leo Burdos, Dave Mulligan, Alan Pearce. Was that all teed up before the tournament, or was it due to good performances there that you got that contract, or how did that all play out?
Well, Rory and Mully had gone over the year before because they were a year older. Piercy and I were 83s. They're both 82. So they'd gone over the year before. They'd both done really well over there. Colin Walker was the academy director there. He used to play over here. So he was in contact with Kev about other players. We've been on a few tours, and then Piercy and I were asked to go over. So that was set up beforehand. We knew we were going. We were speaking to Colin like leading up to the tournament and everything. So afterwards we went over, and then Leo came over like on his own on trial after that. And same with Dazza, they came over on trial. And both did really well and got signed. So crazy, like it was tough going from New Zealand in the summer because it was December when we went over. to Barnsley in the winter. I don't know if you've been to Barnsley. I would guess you probably haven't. And I would suggest don't bother. It's like the football was amazing. The academy was great. It was a very professional setup, but the city itself is, not much. So it certainly helped having some buddies there. And Percy and I were lucky that Rory and Mully had gone over, and they were, again, done really well. They knew everyone. We were established, so we were able to come in and a little bit of a smoother transition for us.
So 18-year-old, 17-year-old Jeremy Christie, you've been the captain of the young All Whites at the own World Cup. Are you thinking a professional career at this point is on the cards? Like you're going to make it, it's just a question of where? Or are you still have that drive to really try and force yourself in somewhere? What's the mentality like?
Certainly didn't think I was definitely going to make it or anything, but I don't know, it's weird. I guess when you're that young, now thinking back, I didn't really think like that. It was just like, oh, here's the next thing. Okay, now I'm going to Barnsley. Okay, go over there and just do it. And just kind of going through, just kind of living it at the time, not really thinking about what I have to do. And that's a good thing as you go to an environment like that. And, you don't need to push yourself because everyone else is kind of pushing you and demanding high things. So, coming from where I was playing today, I never dreamed, I didn't plan on being a footballer at all. Under 17s kind of came up. I was fortunate enough to make it into that group. And then to play in the tournament was great. It was probably when Rory and Mully were over in England that I started to think, and when Kev was talking to myself and Percy about it, I started to think that, holy shit, is there a chance I could be a footballer? So that's probably when it started to become a possibility. And then, like I said, to go there, I was just over there and working hard every day and just kind of living it without thinking too far ahead, which, in hindsight, I wish I had have maybe thought about what I need to do to kind of push on and keep climbing the ladder, as opposed to just kind of being in the moment.
5 Kiwi boys in Barnsley. What sort of stories can you share with us about those years? Any dressing up as a woman and pretending to be Leo Bertos's girlfriend? Anything like that?
Did that happen? That may have happened. Those, when you're that young, and I was 16 when I went there. Those other guys, we're 16 to 18, and you train most of the times. Training's done by, you're home by 1. Training, and you're kind of just living on your own and chilling over there. So we got up to some stupid things. If anyone who's been on national team stuff, Rory and Mully, those two, any chance you get, they will tell the same stories just over and over. It's funny because I was there and I can imagine it, but I'll walk out. We'll be at, when the national team, we'd be at breakfast or whatever, and they'd start and then they'd just go back and forth and they're like, oh, you told the same stories last night. People would just leave. Those two love it. They just keep reminiscing and stuff. But man, what stories? I mean, there's that was funny. Leo's one. We used to write. Rory used to. First of all, Rory's like the kingpin of all that. He kind of he'll bully people and in a fun way, but he makes sure you can't kind of say anything bad to him. He just kind of hammers everyone else. But he would write. We used to write screenplays. And draw up the storyboard, the different frames, and then draw what was going to happen. We did one Mully, we always called him an alien for obvious reasons, his face, and we would do things where he would be dressed up or someone would dress up like him as an alien. And Percy, was always the butt man because he's got a massive duck's ass, which is where his speed comes from. So. And we used to call him the Phantom as well, because on a night out, he'd just disappear.
2 beers pierced.
Yeah, right. So we got him a Phantom mask. So he used to wear that in all our videos, and yeah, he did American Idol or Pop Idol, that kind of stuff, where everyone would make people perform to make a song, and then the judges would do it. And we've got a video of it. There's a DVD with probably an hour and a half of just nonsense.
So were you guys kind of behind the South Africa stuff, the World Cup? Some of the stuff that came back out of the World Cup, like that DVD, it was really good content. With the kind of the makings of that stuff all the way back in Barnsley, all those years before.
For sure, and Rory had a camcorder, and I guess back in the late 90s, who had a camcorder? only like grandparents. But he had one, and he used to just film. Like we used to film stupid stuff, and yeah, even like on a night out drinking at the house beforehand, we'd like film like stupid things, and probably shouldn't go into too much more of that. Yeah, so he was like loved filming things and making little movies. So then he was the same in South Africa. Yeah, there were 2 or 3 of us. I think myself, Rory, and I think Mossy maybe had like cameras there, and we're just coming up with all sorts of nonsense and pranks and stuff like that.
Well, I watched the McOnie food jacket back again the other night in preparation for this.
Talk us through that one.
Yeah, he was fun. He's like a good guy, awesome character, but he was hanging around a lot. And after the games, we would have like a barbecue back at the house, and families and stuff would come in, and he would always turn up. I'm like, what's this guy doing here again? And he had that blazer on. One day he took it off, and he'd come by and he'd film some things, and then he'd just like, go to the barbecue and eat all the food. So we were sitting around one day, like, here he goes again, and he left his blazer. Yeah, so we went and I think maybe I put it on, and then we just started with, let's just put a little piece of sausage in the pocket. I'm like, no, let's put something else in. And then we just loaded the pockets up with everything. And then, let's do a little interview with him, put your blazer on. And then he was telling some story, and we were obviously in the background giggling away. And then he puts his hand in the pocket and pulls out like a bread roll, and there's a kebab and a sausage, and he just keeps
it's really good content. It's a great game.
We're like, you stole that food. He's like, no, I swear I didn't. I swear this. I don't know who put this in here. He got all defensive on it.
Oh God.
Yeah.
So what do you remember? So 3 years at Barnsley. Off-field stuff sounds like you had a really good tight group that helped things. What do you remember about the on-field stuff? What are the strongest memories from your actual playing days there?
Man, when I first went there, like I've got mixed feelings. Like stuff on I think I did great. Other stuff where I didn't. And people go over and they play, and they always have those things. Oh, I should have. I could have. This happened. That happened. I got injured. Whatever. But I look at and there's some things that are out of my control and some things are in my control. But I went over there at 16, and before the end of that season, I started in the under 17s. That was cool. I ended up playing under 19s in the playoffs, and then I played in the reserves. And I started a reserve game at 16. I got Dave Bassett was a manager, and our first team made the playoff final that year. And I've been playing in the reserves with a lot of these experienced pros and was doing really well. I kind of moved quite high up the pecking order in terms of midfielder. I then go home for 6 weeks over the summer. We came back, all the New Zealand guys, because the club would do all the flights. We came back a week after pre-season had started. And by the time we got there, the first team had gone off to Austria or somewhere pre-season trip. And they'd had a bunch of injuries, first team midfielders. And one of the guys who was on my team, youth team, he'd been called in. So, the end of the previous season, I was kind of ahead of him in the pecking order. I came back a week late. He's gone away. He ended up playing every game that year in the first team. He started at 17, 18-year-old. And then, so that's one of my what-ifs. But I came back, and a week later, I got hurt. Like, a guy smashed me in a tackle in training, and my ankle was out for like 3 weeks. So I was then, right behind. Came back. I played a couple of games in the team. Made my debut. I think I was 17 or 18 or something. Blackburn away in FA Cup, which was pretty special in the moment. But then those like on the pitch, that was amazing. And then by the time when my time there ended, I was in the reserves every week playing and on the bench of the first team or traveling with the first team. So I felt like I was involved, with the club. And then ITV at that stage, they were sponsoring the football leagues. So Premier League has their own deal. Football leagues have got ITV, and ITV pulled the money out. And so Barnsley went into administration when I was there. My contract was up in like 6 months. And my agent had been talking to the club about, new contract and everything. It was all good. We go into administration. The manager called me into his office. Says, as soon as we get out of administration, we'll get you sorted, get you taken care of. You've been great, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like pretty relaxed about it. This is fine. He then gets fired while we're in administration. And then the reserve team coach took over as the first team manager. So in my mind, I'm like, this is perfect. I've been playing for him every week. I'm like, this is gold. He'll get me sorted. We come out of administration. The first thing he does, he calls me in his office. I'm like, okay, great, new contract. and he was just like, sorry, we're going to have to, we're not going to renew your contract. Haven't kicked on like, we hoped you would, this and that. So that was kind of, those things changed. But I also think, I was enjoying my life over there. I had my buddies there, and we were kind of, having fun. I look at some players now, and I wish that I had someone kind of take me under the wing and be like, look, you've got a chance. This is what you need to do to kind of maximize your potential in your career. That would have been nice, but it was a pretty awesome time there, and things happen for a reason, and I wound up, doing other things. But it's cutthroat over there. We had 4 managers in my 4 years there, 3.5 years there. Each time a new manager came in, he'd bring with him 4 or 5 players, and normally midfielders. So we had a squad of like 42 players or something at one stage, 42 pros. So it's, even at a club like Barnsley, that's kind of the setup there. So it was an amazing experience, and I wish I'd have done more with it. I think I had opportunities to do that. And I didn't. I try and tell kids that now, like you don't understand if you want to really push on. I got there, and I could have possibly, carried on through over there, but it's down to me and not working hard enough or being as driven as I probably should be, as focused. And then couple that with things happening outside of my control as well. But cool experience and a lot of funny stories from it. Nothing else.
So so you get released from Barnsley, and then you link up with the Kingz back in New Zealand. Was that a seamless transition? Was that just straight into that setup?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at a few other things in the UK. I had some options at other clubs, but again, with the money being pulled out of all of the lower leagues, like Championship, I guess it was First Division back then. The contracts were just, they weren't great. Also, I'd been spoiled at Barnsley. Like the setup there is very, very professional. It's like a Premier League club. The training facilities, everything is really good. So I went to a couple of other clubs, and Halifax, Chesterfield, a few clubs like that, and you just turn up at the stadium in the morning, and then you get told, oh, today we're training at this school, today we're training at this park. So it was just, I don't know, it didn't seem like as professional. There was also like winter time over there, and I was a little bit miserable. And then Ken Dugdale, who worked with in the under 20s, he was at the Kingz, and he just kind of hit me up and said, we'd love to have you back here. So I was like, okay, let me head back to New Zealand for a bit. And in hindsight, I always get told that everyone's trying to get to England. Like that's where the money is. That's where everyone wants to play. Everyone's trying to get to England. And I kind of parts of me wish I had have hung in there and just stayed over there and kept playing. But at the time, I was, I wasn't enjoying it. I was, looking for clubs. Nothing was really, anything that interested me too much. So it was almost an easy way out to come back and play at the Kingz. And I see players who stayed over there, who hung in there and bounced around some lower league clubs and, didn't enjoy it. So it was a decision, and, to come and work with Ken. I didn't know the Kingz was going to kind of head where it headed at the time. Yes. But at the time, I came back, and it was pretty easy to get back in there.
Yeah, so one season at the Kingz. What was that experience? Two. Shay's dodgy notes again. It's hard to.
It helps if you read them, Steve. That's all I'm saying. That's
hard to know what's truth and what's fiction.
You just have to notes, mate. Don't try and mug me off in front of my friend Jeremy.
28 games is what these notes say for the Kingz. Perhaps
definitely more than one season
across 2 seasons. But what do you remember from that period? Was it tumultuous? Was it good? Did you enjoy it?
When I first came back, the team was it was good, and there were some experienced New Zealand players there. Like it was pretty cool. I mean, I always look back on my career and think I got to play with like essentially 3 kind of generations. For the Kingz, I played with Harry Nada was there, Chris Jackson, Ricky Van Steeden, Michael Utting, Mark Burton. Like a lot of these guys were still playing at the Kingz when I went there. And I was Raf de Gregorio, like those guys, I was in playing with them. So that was a cool experience for that first year. I think I came back for maybe half of that season when I came. So that was cool, and that was a good setup. Ken was great. We were playing, everyone was full-time professional. That was great. The following year was when it kind of turned to custard a little bit, where a lot of the players were part-time. So I think there was maybe 6 or 7 of us tops who were like full time. The rest of the guys were part time, so they were, working all day and then coming to practice at 5 o'clock at night. I remember, and some good players. I remember Jason Rowley, he was there and he was like scaffolding or something during the day and then having to come and train for 2 hours at night, and stuff like that. So that second year was a bit of a challenge. That was kind of a little bit rough. And I got hurt as well. I can't believe I played 28 games because I was injured for most of that season.
You probably did it. Probably stats are wrong.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Don't come at me with that rubbish. If you want to get it, you do the notes next week.
Nah, you've done a good job.
I've had enough of this.
Was Winton Rufer? Did you play with Winton Rufer?
No, unfortunately not. But this is what we were doing at that second year at the Kingz. We would travel at like 4 a.m. We would fly over to play games and come back like that night and stuff like that. Like we were set up to fail pretty much. You know what I mean? And then the team's losing games and we're getting like caned, getting hammered and stuff. And these poor guys are going and working like an 8-hour day and then coming to training for 2 hours and we're doing hardcore fitness sessions and then we weren't getting paid all the time. And that was obviously another thing. Our payment's going to be late this month. So then that's players are like, oh, this is bullshit. Why am I going to bother? So that was a rough second year, and then obviously the league finished then, so the club finished. But the first year
was that the year that the car door ended up on the Mount Smart pitch?
Yeah, I remember that.
Was that the year? That was the year. I just remember there was like a car door ended up on the field.
I don't know, really.
Wow, so weird.
Bizarre.
That was wild. Was there ever an explanation for that?
We'll link it in. It's on YouTube. It's
like
just
during a game.
Yeah,
during a game. Yeah, it was. I think my old man used to write the Sitter fanzine at the time and made a huge deal about it. Put it on the front page. Like, what the fuck happened here? How did a car door end up on
security?
The field?
Yeah, it was
during the game.
Insane. Sounds about
anyway,
right.
I think you, and we'll delve into each of these though. I think you might be the only player that has played for New Zealand's 3 professional football entities: the Kingz, the Knights, and the Phoenix.
I think so, yeah, just because, again, I was very young when I went to the Kingz and that generation kind of phased out. And certainly by the time the Phoenix started, most of those guys were done. I think like Danny and Noah and stuff played for the Kingz and the Knights. I mean, the Knights weren't around long. Not too many people played for them. But they were there and then they'd finished by the time the Phoenix kind of rolled around. So I think that's about right.
When you left the Kingz, you spent a year at Waitakere before you joined the Knights. Do you remember, going back a while, but that was quite a strong Waitakere team, I think, around sort of 2004. Do you remember the standard being quite different from the Kingz to National League with Waitakere, or was it kind of similar at that point?
From that Kingz team in my second year, it was similar. Like a lot of local players, a lot of New Zealand guys in that, a lot of young guys from that team. But yeah, that Waitakere team, and like there's a few things. That whole transition between the Kingz and the Knights is like it goes in a million different directions. Like it's bizarre. And so when I'd been at the Kingz, they told me when that league finished, we want to sign you a 4-year deal because I was 21 or something, and I've been playing every game. So I was like, we want to sign you a 4-year deal. As soon as the league gets sorted, we'll get that all taken care of. There was also an opportunity. So we had a link with a Norwegian team, Lyn FC over in Norway. And 2 of their players had come over and played for us during the second season of the Kingz. Alex Midtstian and Espen Sherwin. They came and played. And there was an opportunity for us to send a player over there. So when the Kingz finished, I was told that I was going to get to go over there. And it's like a partnership, and I would train and play and see how I did. And it was like an opportunity for me to get back to Europe. Ken Dugdale had set that up, and I was obviously excited. He was back in Norway at that stage. So in my mind, Kingz finishes. I'm like, cool, I'm going to get to go over to Norway. I'm going to go play over there for a bit, and hopefully that's the entrance back into Europe. I then get told by the club, no, that deal's gone away. We want you to go and play for Onehunga Sports. And I'm like, that's
it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you sure? Because I've spoken to Ken, and he's there now in Norway, and he's been into the club, and they're kind of waiting to get that all confirmed. I end up finding out later on, like just the King's like, no, that's not an option. Find out that I guess Onehunga Sports were paying because I'm still under contract. So Onehunga Sports are paying something for me to go and play there. Whereas, I would have gone to Lynn and they weren't going to pay for anything. It was just a partnership. So in order for the Kings to get some money, they were loaning some of the players out. And there was myself, Mark Burton, I think, and David Rayner, all loaned to Onehunga Sports. And Onehunga Sports was awesome, by the way. Shane Rufer was the coach there. I know Shane, he's great. The club was awesome. And that was fine. But, in my mind, I was like, so that was that whole setup, first of all. And we ended up getting relegated with Onehunga Sports anyway. There was a guy, I can't remember, Roman, I think was his name, who was like the captain. He was awesome. But training sessions, I'm going there twice a week for training, and there's 5 players, 6 players of practice and stuff like that. So it was what it was. But then after that, we get told, Waitakere, the National League starting up, NZFC or whatever, Waitakere or, Auckland City are the 2 teams in Auckland. So I go and meet with Alan Jones from Auckland City, have a meeting with him, and I was kind of blown away. Like the presentation, everything was super professional, like what he had planned. And then for Waitakere, Chris Milicic, he came and met with me and had a beer and whatever. But in my mind, I was like, well, I want to go to Auckland City. This is and Kevin Fallon knew Alan Jones really well, and they kind of said, this is he's a great coach and everything. So I wanted to go there. I was like, right, I'm going to go play for Auckland City. Then I get told by the Kings, whatever, that no, we want you to go to Waitakere because we've got a striker coming out from South Africa who we're going to sign, Kieran Jordan, and we want you guys playing together so you can get ready for the season to set up. So I'm like, well, I really like that Auckland City kind of set up and the professionalism and everything. But okay, if that's, obviously I'm just doing it for a year, so I'll go and play for Waitakere. Obviously, that team was amazing. We had, Simon Eadie in goal, Sean Douglas, Danny, Noah, Chris Jackson, Jeff Campbell, Kieran Jordan. Bozzy was playing, Jared Davis, Hawani Edwards. The team was really good. But it was obviously for a lot of those players, it was just it wasn't everything. It was like a little break in between professional seasons. So then I ended up going to Waitakere and playing there, and it was fun. It was a good time, good group of guys. And then,
how was Kieran Jordan sold to you? Because obviously he came and dominated the local league and was perhaps the best import we've ever had. But did they know that in advance? Were they like, we've got this guy who's going to be amazing, so that's why you need to come and play with him? Were they selling him big before he got here?
Well, the Kings were bringing him out, because there was a South African connection at the head of the Kings. I think Guy Hedderwick and someone else. But they were bringing him out to play for the Kings. That was the deal. But then in the interim, he was going to play for Waitakere. So, yeah, I was told, he's going to be a striker for us. You're going to be in the midfield. We want you guys playing together. And then obviously having Danny and stuff at Waitakere. So I ended up going to Waitakere. And, yeah, like I said, it was all good. But then what happens when the night starts is people move around in those positions, and neither Kieran or I are kind of included in that first group. So that was, I don't know if you want to talk more about Waitakere before I get into that, the nights kind of stuff. But
well, at Waitakere, is that the first time that you played with your brother since you left Whangarei?
Yes. Yep. And he was good, man. When we were younger, he was a better player for sure. He was a beast. He could ping the ball a mile. He was strong. He would always play in midfield, and I would play wide because I was quick when I was younger, and he would just dominate. He was a beast. I was fortunate that the under-17s was my year. So, we had all camps and everything like that.
So we've actually got a quote from Nathan, which is just an opportunity to kind of segue into it, where he says about you. He's always been the super competitive younger brother, striving to compete with his older brother. He subsequently had anger issues if things weren't going right for him. And ever since he was little, he's been writing checks his body can't cash on the pitch. When we played together growing up in reps and Whangarei youth football, I had to step up and win his fights for him without him even knowing. Even when he grew up, he thought it'd be a good idea to 2-foot Hawani Edwards at the first Waitakere training. How much truth in that last part of the story?
Probably. That sounds about right. I think, yeah, because Hawani's got that in him. Hawani's a little bit, he doesn't mind getting stuck in. So yeah, I would, if I see people doing that, then I don't mind like going and doing it back. But he was, the earlier part of it is nonsense. Like, but yeah, I mean, he would probably say that because he's, he'd probably handle himself a little bit better than I can. But I think I would always want to fight with him. And my dad's like a rugby guy, and we used to have in the backyard, he would kind of throw us a ball and be like, yeah, 1-on-1, like rugby. And my brother was bigger than me, like tackle, and I would kind of try and run, and he would just pick me up and like, smash me into the ground, and then he'd get the ball and he'd just run over the top of me, and I'd be crying and everything like that. So he used to bully me a lot in that regard. But yeah, I think once we got playing, especially when we were back there and I was a little bit older, I didn't need him. He wasn't on the field enough anyway to help me out.
Well, Sam Wilkinson, who's also been on the pod, has got a theory that when you've got two brothers of a similar age, or siblings of a similar age, the younger brother is normally better than the older brother because they've had to play up in backyard and kind of catch up. I think, Stephen, it's certainly true for you and Donald, and sounds like it's true for you and Nathan, Jeremy, that the younger sibling, and for me and my brother, but that's irrelevant because my brother never played, and neither did I. Couldn't say much. You played, mate. You did. Well, yeah, I'm waiting for my opportunity to talk about my playing stories.
One of these days. Jeremy, let's pause there and just talk a little bit about you as a player. So what was it that made you so highly sought after at this stage in your career? You're a central midfielder. Was it your big engine, your combative, your passing, your finishing? What were your strengths and what were your weaknesses?
I don't think I was that sought after, but I was super fit when I was young. Like I could run all day, great engine. Like even as a player, when I was getting older too, I was, I could always just run a lot. I was, I guess, pretty competitive, never great technically. I'm better now than I was when I played. Like I do a lot of coaching, so I get way more touches, and I genuinely believe that I'm a much better player now than I was when I played. But I wasn't great technically, but I would get stuck in, and I was, I think that was kind of my game. I like to hit like diags and stuff, but more than anything, I just run around and work hard and kind of get stuck in. And that you win like a tackle, or you track back and you do something good for your team, that can make up for like 3 or 4 bad touches. So I was doing a lot of that, a lot of making up for bad touches by working hard.
I feel like the Yellow Fever forum group kind of cruelly nicknamed you Plodder, and like you've referenced it just before. Like when you were younger, you were actually quite quick. You played wide. Did that sort of thing, like those sorts of nicknames and that sort of stuff, does that kind of permeate through and kind of get to you, or do you just kind of brush it off and go, these are just knobheads that are in the stand and don't really know anything about the game? And did Plodder actually, was that accurate or not?
It didn't get to me. I thought it was funny. Like I don't mind that kind of stuff. Like those people, they're fans and they come along and that's awesome. Say whatever they want. I don't think it was me as a player. I felt like I was. I don't know. It depends. Like later on in my career, I used to, and this is one thing that people don't realize is that, you're doing what the coach is telling you to do a lot of the time. And, certainly when I was at Phoenix and stuff, if I was playing in midfield, my job was to sit in midfield. And, everyone else kind of bombs forward and no, you got to stay there and like protect the back four and things like that. So I think the style of my game, it might be accurate from when I was at the Phoenix, but more to do with, my job and the team as opposed to my qualities. But I did have, when I was young, I was like a sprinter in school and everything. And then I had a few knee surgeries and some of that pace disappeared. But I don't think I was necessarily, when I was young, I'd buzz around the field because you used to play. And that's the other thing is football changed so much. When I was coming through, when I was in England and stuff, everyone played 4-4-2. So central midfielders were box to box. You just had to be constantly going. But then it changed to a stage where no one was box to box. You're either a sitting midfielder or an attacking midfielder. No one kind of did both. So
I'm laughing because Stephen farted twice, and he's hoping that I haven't heard that.
Hey,
but the microphone,
Come
I
on.
guarantee, is going to pick that up. And I think that's so disrespectful that you've done that.
Let's keep it professional.
Not only to me, but also to Jeremy. I just find that outrageous. Before we leave that particular topic, how close were you to Nick Willis in middle distance running at high school?
Was he a runner?
What? The Olympian?
Oh, Nick Willis. Okay. I thought you said Mick Willis. Oh, Nick Willis.
Oh,
No, I don't know that.
Mick Willis was the one with the porno addiction.
Actually, funny story. When I was, and this is how, New Zealand's like the smallest country in the world. When I was younger, I did because he's my age, right? Is he like our age?
Yeah.
So I did the Colgate Games used to be like the national athletics thing, and it was in Wellington at Newton Stadium, and I ran in the 200, no, in the 100, 200, and 400. I got like 6th in the 100, 4th in the 200, and I got 2nd in the 400. The winner, Nick Willis.
There you go.
There you go.
That's definitely not a Plodder. What was also interesting is that I'll leave that. It was going to be a terrible pornography addiction gag, which I'll just leave it. We can edit that out.
Yeah. Good attempt. Okay, so 2005 you're at the Knights, and then 2006 you go to Perth Glory. So 2 years again. You sort of talk us through that season at the Knights and what happened and why it was only one season and how you ended up going to Perth.
And how did Kieran Jordan not sign there?
At the Knights?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that whole situation, like, again, my whole impression all the way through was that, I'm going to be at the Knights. I'd started playing the national team. And then John Ad said, come in. And we had this trial game, which I later found out was just a sham, because a couple of players who came out from Australia were already signed, but they were just told, can you come out to make it look like it's legit? So I play in this trial game. And I did really well. Like I even myself, I was super fit. I've been training all the way through and everything, and I did really well in the game. And then afterwards, I get John Adseck calls me, and JA, awesome guy, by the way, great guy. But he called me and says, "Can you come out to my house? I wanted to talk with you." I'm like, okay. And the squads were 20 players, right? So I go out there thinking, well, I've been told for the last year and a half that I'm a big part of all of this. Blah blah blah. I played in this trial game. I did really well. He calls me out there and he goes, all right, I want you to, him and Tommy Smith are there. Tommy Mason. And he says, I want you to be the 21st player.
Hang on a minute. Just do the numbers real quick.
Like, he goes, yeah. He goes, so, Sir Alex Ferguson called me about this player who to come out, and I have to take him from Manchester United. Phenomenal, was Ben Collett. He's like, but you've done great, and we want you involved, but it'll be like as a reserve kind of thing. If someone gets injured, you can come in. So in my mind, I'm like that. This is ridiculous. So I remember leaving. I was like, okay, cool, sounds good. I leave there. I'm like fuming, and I'm just raging about it. Finally, I'm like, well, you know what? I've been doing nothing for like a year and a half, essentially, in professional level. So I don't have too many options. So I took it, and I remember when Brighty was on there, he was talking about like how I was older than all the others. There was like him and I think Jasper Stan, and how I was older. And the guys would like hammer me about it. The world's oldest YT. But then once we get into pre-season, I'm playing, I'm doing well, and we played a couple of games, and I'm starting. I'm in the team, and we played against. It might have been the Solomon Islands. I remember in a game. And first of all, I think one of the players, Naoki Amaya, got hurt. So then they said, okay, you're going to come in for 4 weeks or whatever. We play against the Solomon Islands, and it was just a week before the first game of the season, and we're playing a back three. Me, Danny's in the middle, I'm on the right, and Ember's on the left. So I'm thinking, okay, we're getting ready for the season. I'm going to play on the right of a back three. It's interesting, but okay. So the day before the game, we go to, I think it was Queensland. We play against Queensland in the opening game of the season. And we're set up to play this 3-5-2 or whatever, and then he changes it last minute. We're going to play 4-4-2 with a diamond in midfield. So now I'm playing in midfield, and we haven't worked on it. We go and I underhit a back pass back to Savo, back to the keeper, and I think we end up losing 2-0. We then come on the bench. We play against Sydney. I smashed David Carney. And I remember that because he came to Barnsley when I was there on trial. He stayed with me, ended up going to Everton. But in the game, I was like, if I get a chance, like I'm going to smash him. And I used to, when the players would go wide down the sideline, I used to, if the fullback was coming across, I'd try and sneak in thinking, they're going to turn out. And when they turn out, I'm going to smash him. So he went like down, he went down, he turned out, and I went over the top of the ball and like smashed him and that. And they end up scoring from the free kick. It's like out wide, 40 yards, someone's open at the far post and they score. So then my 4 weeks as a reserve or whatever is up. And they and John Anstey calls me and he's like, okay, yes, your 4 weeks is up, so you'll be back as a number 21 again. So then I was doing, okay, cool. So I was doing that training, and then the whole stuff went down with, Danny ended up leaving. There was like the revolt, which is a bizarre story. And then he brings me back in and I play every game, like for the rest of the season. And then at the end of the season, Perth, like the Knights had offered me another deal, but Perth had kind of reached out and I was like, this is not a good environment. The Knights is not where I want to be, and Perth is obviously an established club. So I had the opportunity to go there, so I jumped ship.
So what can you say about the revolt? Like, when you were young, were you kind of on the fringes of all that? Were you involved in that whole discussion?
I'll tell you, this is some information. So we had the team was terrible, right? We were losing every week, and it just wasn't great. Like I think I've even spoken about this before to someone about, Tommy Mason was taking the team for the most part. Tommy was an awesome guy, but I don't know if he was ready to take a team full of professionals, and the environment wasn't great. So we have a meeting. Danny, we go to there was a house called the Big Brother House, where a bunch of the boys who are overseas, they lived in this house. So we go there after practice, and it's we have a team meeting, and Danny just asked the question, pretty straight up, like, everyone's got a piece of paper and a pen, write yes or no. Question is, have you lost confidence in the coaching staff? Like, that's it. You don't need to write your name. Just write yes or no, 23 pieces of paper, put it in the middle. Okay, that's it. Everyone leaves. The next day at training, we get there, and obviously words got back and shit's hit the fan, and everyone has to go in for these individual meetings. So I think Kenny, the trainer's taking the boys out on the field. J.A. and Tommy are in like the office, and we have to go in one at a time to talk to them. So in my head, I'm like, well, I'm just going to be honest here. So I went in there, and they said to me, okay, was there this meeting? Yes. What happened at this meeting? We got asked, have you lost confidence in the coaching staff? Yes or no. What did you write? I said, I put yes. Okay, why have you lost confidence in the coaching staff? And I was like, look, we lose every game. Before the game, I have no confidence that we're going to win it. I'm like, it's like the team's struggling. I feel like, trainings aren't getting us ready for games, blah, blah, blah. So I walk out of there thinking, okay, well, I'm done. But come to find out, apparently everyone else had gone into the meetings, and they said, what did you say? And they said, no, I said no. So whether that's true or not, I don't know. That's what I heard. So I was like, son of a bitch. So, but then the next day, come to training, and he calls me in again. And he's like, well, it seems like I have more confidence in you than you have in me, but we're going to bring you into the squad like fully now. And I ended up, like I said, playing every game after that. And Danny left. So it was, for me, I thought, like at the time and even now, I'm like, he did the right thing. Everyone was grumbling every day. Every single day, everyone was grumbling about, this is shit, this is shit, this is shit. So, it was such a negative atmosphere. He was, I guess, from a leadership point of view, he was like, all right, let me come in and find out if everyone's actually thinking this. And he didn't complain about it. He just got that information, I think, took it to the chairman and was like, look, this is what we've done. This is how the players are feeling, just so you're aware, do it the way you want. And then it became this big kind of thing. But it was at the time I was like, why did I say that? Why would I not? But then it was also in my mind, why did everyone else like deny it? Just be honest with it. But it worked out for me. I ended up playing and stuff. So
it's a tough spot to be in, because you're strategically thinking about because everyone's having these same meetings, so you got to think about what they're going to say. So you're assuming at least some of them are going to be honest. Yeah. So then they're going to cut through the bullshit and realize that some were lying and some weren't. So better to be truthful, right?
Well, I honestly wasn't even thinking about whatever. I didn't realize anyone would say anything other. Like just go in and say what you did. I guess I was a little bit naive to think that people were, maybe changing. But that season, like even our pre-season, we went to Gold Coast for like a week, and pre-season is meant to be tough. We would play a game and then have like a day off. Went to Dream World one day, and everyone had like fries and hot dogs for lunch. Like going out, but there was so many. That group of guys, though, for the most part, there are a couple of them who came out from the UK who were not, they shouldn't have been there. Just attitude-wise, they weren't right. But most of the guys, like obviously Danny, Noah, Bays, Embers, Johnny Tamboras, like a lot of great guys were there. I remember there was one trip I didn't travel, and we had training in the morning, and someone bought this a Muppets poster. Like a big Muppets poster, and all of them wrote like the names of all the different like players and all the coaching staff on the wall. So then all the boys come back from wherever it was. They come in the locker room the first day, and there's a Muppets thing. So then every day it was like at training.
So looking back now, do you have any regrets about that period? Is there anything that you would now do differently?
Not in that scenario, no. I mean, first of all, I thought I've got massive respect for Danny. I think he's one of the most like genuine, honest, kind of honourable people there is. He was doing what he thought was best for the team, which as a captain, he always did that. I'm sure he's doing that as a coach as well. He's all about representing the players and stuff. So I wanted to make sure, I guess, people weren't hanging him out to dry, which some might have. But so I don't regret that at all. And then moving on to Perth was a good move. That was a good move for me there. And I tried to get Kieran over to Perth because he was phenomenal. He should have been playing somewhere. And when I was at Perth, I went there, and I think the Phoenix or the Knights, were trying to sign him at that stage. But I'd spoken to the coach at Perth, and I was like, look, you got to get this. This guy's a freak. He's an unbelievable goal scorer. You need to get him here. And they were talking to him, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out. But yeah, I mean, it was an interesting period, and to have been involved, that's why, like, behind the scenes, what was going on at the Knights and that, it was unlike anything else, but it was an interesting time to be playing.
And then you link up with Terry Serapisos at the Wellington Phoenix, and you sign as a foundation player, that first squad. You're one of the first players to sign.
Yeah, and I was playing in Perth, and I had another year on my contract at Perth, but Ricky obviously was doing the Phoenix. I was playing for the national team, and I've been in contact with him, and he was just saying, if you can, try and get out of your Perth deal, and we're bringing back a lot of New Zealanders, and all about how it was geared towards developing football in New Zealand, and he wants it to be core of New Zealand players, and I really kind of bought into all of that. So I spoke to Perth, and they were cool with it, and I went back to New Zealand and played with the Phoenix and Big Terry and everything else.
And then, so you were 2 years at the Phoenix, and then not renewed beyond 2009.
Correct.
So how did the really interesting part for me is, how did the timeline map in between the Phoenix contracting end and your kind of time with the national team ending post Confederations Cup? Were they around the same time? Like yeah,
exactly the same time. Yeah.
Interesting.
So
okay.
Yeah, and there's definitely, I think, links into all of that, and that's one of the things of having the national team coach also be the club coach. But that I take, like, for me, that's on me. I mean, the Confederations Cup was an interesting experience for a couple of reasons, and that's probably what ended up with all of that stuff happening.
Yeah. So let's go to the Confederations Cup. Talk about that experience. What were the interesting reasons and what happened there?
So we went there, and I was, I'd been in the national team and that obviously for a while, and we played in, I think, Thailand earlier that year. I think that was the same year. Yeah, and I'd played, and I'd done really well. So, and Ricky, I think I came on in the first game and then started the second game, and I'd done well, and Ricky kind of spoke. I played on the right with like we played 4-1-3-1, and I played on the right of those three midfielders. Was that 4-2-3? 4-2-3-1. Sorry, yeah. And I played on the right of those midfielders. So and I'd done well. So then the next national team games we went to Confederations Cup. So in my mind, and now as a coach, I look back on a lot of the stuff and I think, yeah, I'd probably do the same stuff. Like you think things differently. But as a player in my mind at the time, I was like, okay, well, I played on the right the last time we played and I did well. So that should be my spot to lose. We played a couple of games. Who did we play warming up? We played Tanzania. I think I played in the middle. And then we played Botswana, yeah. And I think I came on in that. And then we played Italy and I didn't get on. But after the Botswana game, by the way, so Tim Brown, the legend that is Tim Brown, he's like one of my best friends, awesome guy. But we would go at it in practice. Like he likes to get stuck in. I like to get stuck in. And after Botswana game, because both of us had been on the bench, the guys who didn't start, we trained the next day and we trained pretty full on. And I remember we were playing like a game at the end, and I think Brighty was on my team, and Brownie was smashing him a couple of times. And I'm competitive, the game's going on, and I start like talking to Brownie like, leave the young guys alone, and like start tackling other people. So then I go in, he gets the ball, I go and smash him. I get the ball, he just comes and smashes me. We're just like going back and forth, just smashing each other. After the training, I think it was BT came and like put his arm around. I think Brownie said something to me as well, like "Don't be soft" or some shit like that, and I kind of lost my head. So BT comes and puts his arm around Brownie afterwards, and they're talking, and I'm like, "Look at this guy, like they're babysitting him, all this kind of stuff." So we get on the bus, and Ricky said something, and I was like, "Fuck, Daddy wants to call me soft. Like, fuck it, I'll show him what's soft." Like getting a little caught up. So I think that wasn't didn't look good on my part. But then we go in, we play the first game. Who do we play? Spain. Yeah, we played Spain, and I come on after like 25 minutes or something, which, I think was it Brocky came off? I think Brocky might have come off, but I felt bad for him because we're 4-0 down. It's like 1-0, 2-0, Jezza, get warm. Okay, I'm warming up. 3-0, yep, over you come, you're coming on. 25 minutes. So I go line up, and then 4-0, okay, on you go. Shit, 4-0 down. But and then I start South African game, and I played the whole game on that against South Africa, and then we played, who was the third game?
Iraq,
yeah. So, and I'm on the bench again. So after that, after the team meeting where it names a team and I'm on the bench, I'm going to stay behind. And I go in and I'm like, what the fuck? Why am I not playing? I'm like, when we came here, I should have been playing. I'm like, I got my way into the team. I started the last game, did well, and now I'm out of the team again. I'm like, what's going on? And that didn't go down well. So I ended up coming on in that game as well for the last 20 minutes or whatever. And then after that, we go back to New Zealand, and I go and Ricky says, contract's up. We're going to look in other direction. I think it'd be better for you to go and be playing more regularly, starting games and everything. So I said, I just want to make sure this doesn't affect my national team status. We've got a lot coming up. He's like, yeah, don't worry. And then those games against Bahrain, I wasn't involved in, but I kind of got it because I was playing. I think I was playing for Waitakere for that before I moved to Tampa. And I was in contact with them regularly, and it was a little bit frustrating because I was, they named the extended squad, which I feel is to keep people happy. So for me, instead of just naming the squad and you're not in it, it's like, oh, you're in the extended squad. So then I see they're training in Wellington, I'm in Auckland, and they're training and they've got local players coming and training. And I'm like, I'll come down and train. I'll come down and like get involved in it. Doesn't happen, but I go to the game and everything, and I was like the biggest fan there. And then I went to the after party with all the boys. Obviously, these are my best friends that are there. Everything was great, and then I ended up going over to Tampa, and I was reporting back a lot about what I was doing. I went there, and Paul Dalgleish, was the coach of Tampa, who's Kenny Dalglish's son, and he's got a good reputation. So I was doing well in Tampa. I was super fit, and I thought because our season was running from February through to whatever, that I'll be in season when the team goes to the World Cup. So that's got to be an advantage for me if I'm like playing every week. The other teams are in off season, so I was reporting back. Level 16 on the beat test, Ricky. I played, got an assist, scored a goal. I could play, working hard. My coach is also contacting them saying, you're like doing well. He's doing well, working hard, great attitude. And then I spoke with BT and was like, I understand that at Confederations Cup, my attitude wasn't as it should be. I'm like, but, I realize that now, and, I accept that, and anything, opportunities going forward, I'll be the best, teammate and all that kind of stuff. So it took a little bit of that. And it's easy I've seen in that environment with Ricky that some people will, when they're out of the squad, they disappear. And there's a large number of players who look like they're important members and then disappear. James did well to come back into it because he looked, like that as well. Adrian Webster, don't you remember him? He came in and disappeared off the face of the earth. Brent Fisher.
He was in Perth?
Was what, sorry?
Was Adrian with you in Perth?
Yeah. Webby was there with me. He's the one who had that fight. Remember that fight after the game? When he fought with James? Those two got into fisticuffs. But so that was my concern. I was like, that could be me done. And this team's going to go to a World Cup. All my friends and stuff, and I might be out of it. So I was just keeping them up to date with what I was doing, and then, spoke and kind of went over all that stuff with BT. And then, I was actually at a restaurant, sorry, in Tampa having a beer with one of my teammates. And it might have been, I think someone messaged me and was like, squad gets named. I didn't even realize it was night time over here or whatever. Squad gets named and, you're in it. I was like, nothing really? So I told my teammate we have a beer to celebrate, and then Ricky calls me and says, yeah, you're in the squad or whatever.
So no heads up before the announcement. You're just finding out along with the rest of the world.
And
that's amazing.
I found out that when he called me, first BT called me, and I was actually, so because I was celebrating a little bit, it was like half an hour after I got told. And the reason I found out then was because Nike were printing the jerseys. Well, Nike got a list of players to print jerseys, and my Nike guy, because I was sponsored by Nike, told someone who told me. So that's how I found out. And then I get a phone call from BT, and I'd gone next door from this restaurant into this bar, Blue Martini. It's like a bar in Tampa. So I'm in the bar and I get a phone call with BT. I'm like, so I go outside and I'm like, yes. And he's like, Jezza, I've got Ricky here. I'm like, okay. And Ricky's like, Jezza. I'm like, yeah. He's like, yep, you're in, taking you to the World Cup. Congratulations. I'm like, oh, thanks, man. Why don't you down? Okay, bye. That's it. And I guess it was on TV or it was radio or something where he was like calling me to say it. So that's when I found out. Like that was it. And then.
So there was like a camp or a training camp where a bunch of players came in. So you weren't even part of that. You were in the States.
Yep.
Holy shit.
From the Confederations Cup, I wasn't involved at all until the World Cup.
Holy shit. Even when they played Mexico in the US, you weren't in that squad.
No.
That's got to be an incredible phone call or realization that, I mean, the dream, obviously, of a Kiwi footballer is to go to a World Cup is like amazing. So to think that that's probably not going to happen or maybe not, and then get a call or get the announcement and that you're in.
Even not knowing that the team was being announced that day. That's incredible.
Like you're going for a beer. You must be absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, I mean, I thought because, and again, I'm a little bit, I guess at that stage, I didn't think about all the personality stuff and the character. I just thought, you know what, I'm playing well. I'm playing week in, week out. I've been in the national team for a long time. Like there's not enough players in New Zealand. Like how can I not get picked for this? So that was in my mind. I was like, look, as long as I work my nuts off at my club and I train as hard as I can, that was my focus at the start of that season. Was I'm going to do everything right so I can go to World Cup. So in my mind, I was like, yeah, I'm doing all those things. So little do I know that they've got no idea what I'm doing. I'm reporting back with emails and messages and stuff, but they don't. They're probably like, oh, whatever. Most of the time, I wouldn't get replies, most of the time. But I was like, I don't care. I'm going to keep sending. This is what I'm doing. This is how I'm working and stuff. So it took a little campaigning and stuff. But I got there. And then once I got there, I was, and that was the thing with the Confederations Cup was that if I didn't start, I was the first sub, or the second sub, worst case. 3 games. First game, I was the first sub. Started the second game, and I was the second sub in the third game. I'm like, I should be in this. That's 13 players.
Yeah.
Kind of in that list. So if they're taking a squad of 23, they must, it's, I don't know. I thought to myself, I should be in there. But then obviously being out of the squad for a year, essentially, was a little nerve-wracking, but I was, I guess, stupid and didn't think that way.
Well, before we go to the World Cup itself, let's jump back to the start of the All Whites career, because you kind of, as we've alluded to, you captain the under-17s. You're a young professional playing for the Kingz, but your All Whites debut doesn't come until 2005 at 4?
Yep.
Playing Australia in the UK. So was that a frustrating period of being kind of the one of the top teenage talents to kind of waiting your turn to make his debut, or was that, I can't really remember the time period of whether a lot of young players kind of debuted before Ricky came on the scene, because that was his first game in charge, right?
Yeah. So I think it didn't seem like I wasn't getting opportunity, because before that there was that older generation of players, and there was a lot of them. And then once that 2004 kind of program, whatever happened before then.
Vanuatu loss, right.
So then that was and there was a few of guys I played with in the under-20s who were playing. Mully was on the squad, I think Snupsy, a few of those guys were playing, but a lot of the guys weren't. So it wasn't. I think I was 22 when I made my debut, so it wasn't like I was that old. But it was frustrating. But I had a couple. I mean, you might be surprised to hear this, but not problems, but comments about my attitude before. And it was we went to Japan. So again, I played under 17s, under 20s. I was 23s. We went to Japan, and
was that the tour? Was that the tour? Was Terry 2 on that tour?
There's a lot of T's in there. I think so.
Yeah, that's the one that Roland referenced once about a sub. But anyway, so I think Jeremy Field was on that tour. Our mate Jezza.
Okay, maybe There was a lot of local guys, but I remember going there and we had I played in the game, and afterwards it was me and Siggy, I think, went up, because it was under 23s. Most of the guys are in their 20s and that. And I can't remember who the coach was, but we said after the game, okay, can we go and have a few beers? And we kind of told no. And even when we went to the airport to fly out to Japan for that, it was 4 a.m. or something. And I remember we're in that group check-in at Auckland Airport, it's that big area, and there's no one there. And I'm kind of lying down, slouching like this. And the manager comes over and he's like, get up. I was like, what? He's like, get up, you're representing New Zealand. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, sit up properly, I'm like, there's no one here. And a little bit of a back and forth that kind of set me off on the wrong foot there. And then asking after the game, and I think we ended up subbing everyone at some stage. I played the most, I think. I might have played 60 minutes or something, and everyone else had come off. And I had a decent game. And then, we end up, the next time the squad for the 23s, I'm not in it. And I think I was at the Kingz, because I remember something came through at the Kingz that I was in the extended squad. And I'm like, I'm starting in the Australian League every week. I'm playing 90 minutes and starting, and there's guys who are playing for Manawatu and areas like that. I'm like, what the fuck? So it was, and I think I was told that my some of my attitude in Japan wasn't how it should be. And plus in training, because I'd come from playing in England, where it's ruthless. Every day in training is ruthless, man. You make a mistake, you hear about it, and stuff like that. I was like that. So I'm in practice and I'm on people, and if the team's losing, I'm getting stuck in, and I'm a little bit crazy when I play and train and stuff. So I think some of the players didn't like that, and some of the coach or management didn't like that either, coupled with slouching at the airport and then asking to go for a beer afterwards. I think they kind of dominated, and Ricky was kind of part of that group. So then when the national team, he took over that job, because I think he was involved in it before that as well, as an assistant or something. So I wasn't involved, and then finally, and I think I only went to England for that game because someone pulled out. So then I was always in the extended squad, always, every squad, extended squad. And then finally someone pulled out of that, and he took me, gave me a chance, and I was in every squad up until after the Confederations Cup. So. Yeah,
you literally were in every squad until that Iraq game, and then it was kind of done.
Yeah, I just play the big game. I just take me to the World Cup, take me to the Azteca. I'll skip the rest.
So then let's go to South Africa. So what an experience. On the field takes care of itself. We've kind of alluded to the off the field stuff. How much fun was it in that training camp? It looked like 23 mates. It enjoying each other's company, but getting results on the pitch as well.
And best time of my life, like certainly from a football perspective. And that's the reason is that like that's why we got results, because like the team spirit was like nothing else I've ever experienced. And that just shows me now that I'm coaching how important that stuff is, like the environment, and again, team spirit. And we also had a group that I feel like it was the perfect balance age-wise. We had a handful of older guys who were all super experienced, a handful of younger guys who were super talented, and then this large group of kind of 25 to 30s who just played together for a long time and been through the system. So it was like a really good balance, and everyone filled their roles really well, and everyone no one was complaining about not playing, even me. No one was like, everyone was happy to be there, and like it was just such a positive kind of environment, man. And how can it not be, going to a tournament like that? And but I think even the lead up to it, everything kind of went how it needed to go. Like we played Australia, and we, because at that time, who knows? No one knows are we any good? Are we going to be able to compete with these teams? Who knows? So we play Australia and we lose, but we're competitive. So then we're thinking, shit, we're actually not bad. We then play, who do we play next? Serbia.
Yeah.
And we beat Serbia. So then we're like, oh my God, we're gonna win it. And then we play Slovenia, and we get brought back down to earth. Like, oh, actually, we ain't that good. We've got to work hard. And then I think that was our last. We played Chile, but that was more of a practice game kind of thing. So we went into it knowing or thinking that, all right, we can be competitive if we do things right, if we're organized, and we had like confidence. And that's the main thing. I think those training camps are so important because we were just organized. Like I was in the team. I played Serbia and Slovenia, and all the training sessions we did that with all tactical stuff. And it was like you didn't have time to think about. Like when I was coming on in games, people asked, like, were you nervous? I'm like, no, well, I wasn't nervous at all, because like I knew so clearly what my job was. I didn't really have to think about, am I going to do this right? I just knew I could run here. I wasn't going to have to get on the ball and create things. It was like, just don't make mistakes, and defensively be organized. So there's the best. I look back on it now. I had a buddy over here the other day who played in the UK for a long time, and I've got the team photo on the wall, and he was looking at it. And this is a guy who knows nothing about New Zealand, but he played in the UK, and he knew the players that he knew. He knew Ryan, Kelly, Winston, Simon, Woodsy, Tommy, Rory. Like that kind of like, there's a lot of players who were experienced, really high quality, experienced professionals. And I think that was the quality of that team. Some were already, some built into it, add like Ivan and stuff into the mix, and it was like a really experienced group of guys. So it was a perfect storm, I think, timing wise, for that group.
You mentioned Ryan. I love talking to players who played with him, especially now as a coach, which we're going to get into soon. But was there anything specifically about him as a player or his leadership role that you use now as an example to the players you're coaching? Like, is there anything that really stood out about the way that he presented himself, or he talked, or he led, that was different to others?
100%. The biggest thing was, well, I noticed, because he wasn't in the squad for a long time. Like when I came in to the team, he didn't play for like the first 3 or 4 years or something like that. And people said a lot of negative things about him and Simon as like people, and I didn't know them. So the first time they came into the squad, first of all, they're awesome guys, like funny, like regular, just off the field. They're part of the group. There's no like superiority at all. The best thing I noticed about Ryan was the very first training session. We get off the bus. He's the first one, goes, grabs a bag of balls, stack of cones, and walking them over to the field. The previous kind of generation, like most things, was young guys grab all the gear. Young guys do this, young guys do that. Where he was the one who didn't say anything, didn't say anything to anyone, just went and did it, grabbed the stuff, took it over there. He was always doing that. And that, I think that showed, like from a team spirit perspective, that if the best player, our captain, our most experienced player, is doing all the shitty things, no one else has any excuse. So that's the biggest thing that I'll say to people is that, like, just do the shitty stuff, and no one else. Don't tell people to go and grab the balls, grab the cones, go and do it. And the other thing is him, Winston, Danny, like those guys who played, Simon, who played at that high level, every training session, on the bus on the way there, laughing, joking, funny, you get there, as soon as you go to the training field, it's like every session matters. You know, once you're on the field, look out. And, you know, I've had all of those guys call me numerous names if you make a mistake in training, but it just makes you, you know, it lifts that standard, and they always demand like the highest every single day, every single training. So those couple of examples for me were a little bit unique, because normally it was either a personality, you're either a fun person or you're serious, but they were able to be both.
You've got a really close relationship with Winston Reid too, I understand. From a sort of media perspective, he often appears as a guy who's not that interested in doing media, and he perhaps doesn't seem that outwardly expressive. But is that very different to the character that you know on the field, or that you know personally? Like you say, is he fucking barking orders and going crazy during these training sessions, and then quite different to his public persona?
Yeah, definitely. He's he is someone he's a little bit different now, but certainly when he first came into the squad, very shy, and takes a while for him to come out of his shell with people. Like once he knows you, then yeah, he's awesome. He's an idiot. But like for you know, until he trusts people, then you know he's a little bit more reserved. And I think he kind of has to be, because of, you know, his kind of status and everything like that. So but he's definitely, every training session in games, he will let you know. Like I remember because he comes here most summers, he'll come to the US and spend some time and come stay here for a bit. And there's some kids that I train, and I was like, why don't you come in and train with us? He came out and joined in, and even in that, he's kind of like yelling at me sometimes, like, hey man, like these are my people, don't yell at me in front of these kids. They respect me. But he's, yeah, so like he's very kind of tough. But yeah, off the field, and Seamus, you probably know him, like once he's in an environment where he's comfortable, then he's like fun, he's funny, he's an awesome person to have around.
And did you know when he first came on the scene, you wouldn't have met him? Did you know him before he sort of linked up just before the World Cup? And did you know he was kind of on the rise then? Did you know that the levels that he would get to by how good he was in training?
When he came in, when he first, you know, announced that he was in the squad, everyone was kind of like, who the hell is this guy? We had no idea he was a Māori. No, like Winston Reid, and living in Denmark. So then, yeah. When he turned up, they're like, oh, this is the hoariest guy in the squad. Like they're like, he's definitely a Kiwi. So he was when he came in, you know, no one knew him, and he turned up late. He missed like a flight or something got delayed. So we're all in New Zealand training, and there's the one guy who no one knows, and he's like missed his flight or something. So we're like, oh my God, who's this idiot? And then he turns up, and first training session, you knew 100%. Like there's something different about him. He was special. His just his technique, his physical, kind of, you know, strengths, and then yeah, technically he was different to everyone else. So once we saw him, and then obviously getting into games, then you knew he was kind of destined for something a little more special. And how awesome that from that World Cup he signs at West Ham. And I remember we played when he scored against Slovakia, because we had houses. I don't know if you know, in South Africa we had like these different houses. And he was like, after that Slovakia game, everyone's back at the house and stuff, and people are looking on Facebook, you know, and I look on Facebook and 120 friend requests. I'm like, oh shit, this is amazing. And then he pulls his up, and it was like 8,000 and something. And all sorts of people, as you can imagine, like trying to get hold of him there. But yeah, he was very shy. It took him a while. Rory did a really good job of kind of taking him under his wing and you know, making him come out of his shell. And now obviously he's a leader in that group.
So he's come and spent time with you at your place. Do you ever go over there and experience the life of the sort of multi-million-dollar English Premier League star? And if so, what's that like?
Have you guys heard anything about me spending some time there?
I know some stuff about that, but I'm going to leave you to tell the story.
I spent a little bit of time with him, yeah.
How's that counter?
It's funny because sometimes it gets blown out of proportion, but it doesn't need to be, because it was too long. But I was looking in the UK when I left. When was it? 2013, maybe 2012. I had some clubs in the UK who I was talking to, and they were kind of around the London area. So I was like, hey man, I'm going to come over. Can I spend a couple of weeks here? Yeah, of course. He's living on his own. You know, he was in London there. So I go over there, and long story short, that 2 weeks turned into just over a year. But I tell him, he'll make fun of me about it, but I'll tell him, that was the best year of your life, and he knows it. Sure, he's married and got kids now, but that year they're in the championship. They got promoted. He won West Ham Player of the Year. That was the best year of his life, definitely. And if he says different, he's lying. But funny, a lot of the guys sent I don't know how they knew this. I guess Winston was talking to them, but I get a card one day at his house addressed to me, and it's congratulations on your 1 year anniversary, and a bunch of them had signed it. I spent some time, and then he met his now wife, Yana. So I figured it was time to go. So I left.
So what is his level of fame there? Is he able to walk down the street, or is he getting mobbed wherever he goes? Can he go to the supermarket without being approached?
Well, he probably could if he tried, but he dresses outlandishly. I remember one day he was like, well, let's go to the mall, maybe go watch a movie or something. Oh, cool. So I have some jeans, I might throw on a hoodie. He comes in these there were these furry pants with these shorts that kind of were over the top of them, and then it was a cape that he had on, and he walked in. I'm like, what the? No, you can't wear that. He's like, what do you mean? And then we go to the mall, and some people, it's a big mall there in London, and people recognize him. And he's like, oh, man, these people. I'm like, dude, look what you're wearing. Of course people notice you, and then, it's Winston Reid. So he probably could if he tried a little harder, but he loves his fashion. But he's very, very famous. Obviously West Ham fans, if they see him. Actually, he was here in Orlando once, and I took him to Orlando City, had a game. I was like, oh, I got some tickets, let's go along. So he came along and went to, and people at the stadium as he's walking in, oh shit, Winston Reid. We went to a bar that night, and some guys came over and is that Winston Reid? I'm like, oh yeah. So football fans know him, I guess.
Yeah. What I find really interesting about that is I messaged him and asked him for any interesting stories that might be useful for this podcast, and he gave me nothing. In fact, a lot of the people that are pretty well known in New Zealand football circles that I reached out to try and get a few interesting stories gave me nothing. It's quite frustrating. So I don't know what you have over them, but it's been very challenging to get some stuff out.
Well, I wonder who. Who did you? Oh my God, Kelly as well messaged on there. He's got some stories, but
nothing. I didn't reach out to Kelly, but Glenn Moss basically said, "Don't ask me to give any gossip about my former teammates." Winston said, "I'll get back to you." We sent an email to CEO@allbirds.com, and it got no response.
That's actually what I want to pick. So it seems like you've got picked up, and this is what Nathan said too. He said Jeremy is very good at making influential friends. It seems like you've got Winston Reid and Tim Brown as your best mates. You're doing okay. Tim Brown is on our wish list. So I don't know if you're best mates. There's a chance, I guess, he might be listening to this. If you are, Tim, we'd love to have you on. You're our dream guest. I'm not sure if he's got an email we can actually reach him on, but he's someone we'd like to, sort of get inside his brain. But talking of Tim Brown, he's obviously CEO of a billion-dollar company now. And he left football. He made that sort of controversial decision to leave football at an early age, which we thought was a strange decision at the time. It was obviously a brilliant one. Did you know that he would go on to achieve the things that he has done? Was he always that driven and creative, and is that a surprise to you?
I think he was always too smart to be a footballer. I think I used to room with him a bit with the Phoenix and stuff, and he was always on a kind of another level when we're talking about, stupid nonsense. He's thinking about all these other things. And when we're at the Phoenix, he was making, we made all these shoes and some clothes and stuff. And I remember I went to his house and he was going over some of the clothing. He's like, what do you think of all of these? And he was selling some shoes in stores, and I bought some. They're $300 or something ridiculous, but we're trying to help him out and everything. And funnily enough, when he was in London at school, there was, crossed over with my time in London. And, we'd all hang out together, had Christmas together, me, him and Brownie, and my wife, Sam, she was over there as well. And we had Christmas stuff together. But Brownie was then starting to, he was doing that. He told us about woolen shoes, and I remember being like, oh, good luck with that. That's it's a tough industry to break into, but he obviously went on and did that. And it's funny, he was at my wedding, and he got married the week after I did, and that was in May of 2015, and February 2016 they launched. So he got married a week after me, and then he was moving to San Francisco, and they're looking to launch in February. And yeah, I mean, what he's done is ridiculous, obviously. And you want to talk about influential people? I mean, he's got, he sent me this photo of him and Leonardo DiCaprio, photo of him and Alex Rodriguez. He's showed me this video of Oprah wearing Allbirds and saying he loved them, and he's on a whole nother level of what he's doing, and he is the busiest man in the world. But I started this club here, and I would talk to him about company. He'd call me and he'd talk to me for an hour about building company and about culture and all that kind of stuff. And I was actually working for this company doing medical sales, and they were based in San Francisco. And I asked Brownie, I'm like, can we come in and can you talk to the company? The company was kind of new and everything. So I took my the boss of our company over, and we sat in their conference rooms, and he kind of asked about the product and looked at some stuff, and it was almost like he blacked out for a few minutes and just started rattling off, you need to do this, 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 this. I would do this, and just kind of popped off like that. And as we walked out of there, my boss was like, this guy's a genius. Holy shit. How is he a footballer? Yeah, I don't know. But he's always destined to do more, and it's incredible what he's done, but it's once you know him, it's not surprising.
Has he changed at all with success? And I'm assuming the lifestyle and the influential people he's around, or is he just the same guy that you've always known?
Same guy, awesome guy. The one of the smartest people, really genuine, good guy, really down to earth. We were over there. Me and Winston went out there a couple of years ago, and we went out for dinner and had a few drinks and stuff. And he's still a clown. And I always said this about him, that when he has a few drinks, he is the most outgoing, fun. It's a split personality. He becomes this larger than life character, and then normally he's very serious and kind of focused on things, but he's still the same guy, and then really down to earth, really time for everyone, and except for you guys by the sounds of it. But
surely, come on, next guest. When you're going out for dinner with Winston and Tim, who's picking up the tab there?
You're playing credit card roulette?
Not me, that's for sure. But actually, maybe we did. I mean, I always, it's the same with the boys. It's good like that, and this is something that in America people don't do. But when with all my teammates, when you go somewhere, whoever gets up to go and grab a coffee, they'll just get it for everyone. Anyone need a beer, they'll get it for everyone, and everyone just kind of takes their turns. And I found out the hard way it doesn't always happen here, because well, how come I'm the only one going up, and then when this guy goes, he just gets one for himself. But then so a little bit different vibe. But it's still like that, especially when we get out that group of guys together. And my wedding, I feel was obviously an amazing day, because I got to marry my wife, but also the reunion. I had so many of those guys who hadn't seen each other, or I'd seen one of them, but to get everyone together, I had Rory was there, Winston, Brownie, Mossy, Danny came over for it. It was just get these Kiwi guys together. It was so much fun.
Yeah,
that's the stuff I miss. I miss the hanging out with the guys, and you guys know you've been in locker rooms and stuff that's, you don't find that in any other profession.
How did other than your teammates or people that you kind of recommended, how did you fall into the medical kind of sales career, and what was that 4 years like? I jumped on your LinkedIn. You probably saw that I was sifting around on there yesterday. It seemed like you had quite a big territory: Florida, Georgia, South Carolina.
Yes, yep. And then the other company I was at, I was the Southeast manager, so I was going to Texas, up to the Carolinas, massive, a lot of travel and stuff. But I guess I didn't finish. Here at college is huge. Everyone's got degrees and everything. I didn't finish high school. So to get like a job and looking for a job, it was slim pickings. But my wife had some friends who had been in medical sales, and it was a job that she thought that I could get into and be good at. So yeah, I spoke to someone and offered me the position, and I was kind of up and running. And it's having a bit of a story, like that's what I've learned. Sales is all about like storytelling, pretty much. So it's a conversation starter that I talk different. I played football. That's obviously something that's unique as well to a lot of it. So yeah, I mean, it was exciting to start with, thinking you can. I like the idea. I know a lot of footballers do as well, about almost being in the business world. Like I was like, yeah, I mean, going to meetings, corporate meetings and stuff like that, and it sounded like pretty fun at the start, but it's a lot of travel, and it ended up being. I hated especially in medical, like some of the corniness of it, and having to go in and talk nonsense with doctors and stuff like that. So I was always looking at potentially getting back involved in football in some way.
And then there was a kind of initially coaching at high school.
Yeah, so there's a private school here, Lake Highland Prep, and it's incredible. First of all, the school, but it's very expensive to go there. But it's an awesome school, and some of the people that are involved there. There's a lot of successful business people, and sure you can imagine there's a lot of money in America, and at a place like that, the connections are great, and just people you see around the place. Grant Hill, basketballer, he's on the board at the school, and his kids go there, and you see him at the games and stuff like that, and a lot of other successful people. So I got involved coaching as an assistant at that school, and it was, I really enjoyed it, especially working with high school kids, older boys. Some of them are 18, so you can have a bit of banter and stuff with them. So I started doing that, and I really enjoyed it, and I kept doing it, and the team had some success, and I started doing some stuff with the little kids as well, and then figured out how can we, bridge the gap at the school. We got 120 kids, between ages 5 and 7 doing this academy, and then a lot of them are falling away by the time they get to high school. So started a club. It's very different here. Soccer, like the youth system, it's weird.
So is it a private club or academy that you've got going? Is that FC Highland?
FC Highland, yeah. So the school is Lake Highland. That's the private school, and then my academy, it's like a youth club. So here it's I still don't really get it. It's not like there's New Zealand football and then there's the different regions and the clubs play part of that. There's just like these different league structures that some guy has started a league, and then only these clubs can be involved in it, and it's expensive to play over here, and it's just it's a completely different vibe. And the dream is for these kids to go and play in college. We're just trying to change it where it's like the dream is for these kids to play professionally. That should be their dream. So we're trying to, change the kind of process a little bit.
And what is your coaching dream or goals? Is working in the youth space what you want to be doing, or would ideally you'd like to be a head coach one day?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of run the club. I coach one group of the little kids. I enjoy that stuff, but that's not a professional career. Running a club is more what I'm doing career-wise. But certainly having seeing friends of mine now coaching, internationally and stuff like that, it makes me think that, man, that would be cool to do, to get back into the time that I enjoyed so much, which was being away on tour and being with the boys and stuff like that. So when I see Danny and Rory coaching, and I actually spoke to Carl Dodd the other day. Don't know if you guys remember him from the Phoenix. He's a national coach of Guam.
Guam, isn't it? Yeah.
Head coach there and stuff, and these guys are, heavily involved in the game. So who knows? I'd love to do that. That would be awesome. But yeah, who knows what happens? I'm happy here in Orlando and building this club, and we'll see where that takes us.
It's like a Gavin Wilkinson kind of role, GM of an MLS club. Is that kind of something on the horizon as well?
Maybe. I mean, that's tough to get. There's 30-something teams and 300 million people here, so it's tough to do that. And
yeah, I don't know. People probably said that about woolen shoes as well.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. Who knows, man? Maybe we'll see where this takes us. I probably should be more, like I said when I played, a little bit more focused and driven, but I'm just kind of living in it. I have a vision long term of what I want the club to be, but it's just trying to take baby steps to get there.
You are in America, and at the moment, don't want to timestamp this, but there is a whole Black Lives Matter kind of movement going on. How involved in that? How removed from that? What is that like for you as someone, a person of color living in the States? Like, is that your day to day? Do you kind of just block it out? Where does that sit with you?
First of all, I fully support that movement. Like, I think the stuff that you see over here, and it's one thing to see it over here. I'm white, like that. Essentially, over here, people see me as white, and I don't want to, because of this movement, I don't want to say no, I'm not. But I have a number of friends who I speak to about that and their perspective on it, because I think that's kind of what people should do, is try and learn and see things from other people's point of view. But it is like, it's scary when you see all these things that are going on, and day to day. I mean, it's I guess my life, where it takes me, I don't necessarily see it up close and personal, but I'm certainly very supportive of it, and we have people involved in our club who are are more involved, and I fully support that. And we, as a club, we try and take a stand on all those kind of social issues as well. But it's scary that there are a group of people here who feel every day that like they're at risk. I think that if people feel that way, then there's a big problem. So it's to get into. And by the way, here you don't talk about politics with people, because everyone like has opinions, and it can get heated. Like, it's very serious and stuff over here. But I'm fully supportive, certainly, of that movement, and I think anything we can do. And for our club, one of our big things is getting into the communities. We offer a ton of scholarship money. We've given like 25 grand in scholarship money to kids to come and play for us, and we want to get into those communities and try and, I guess, give them opportunities and raise the awareness that there are issues close to home.
While we're talking race, Shay, you mentioned before the show you were excited to talk to Jeremy because you saw him as quite a inspirational character in your development when he was the face of sort of the under-17 World Cup as a Māori.
Yeah.
Is that something you want to...
Well, it's kind of the whole BLM kind of question was, like, I've found personally, like, looking back now critically at my own kind of experiences here in New Zealand through football, like, growing up, I was the only brown kid in a football team in Taupo. Like, people like yourself, people like Jeremy Nata, like those sort of guys, like, to see you guys on the pitch representing New Zealand, playing for the Kings, like, it was a dream come true for me. And I wondered, like, when Winston came into the group, all of a sudden it was like yourself, there was Leo, there was Rory, there was Winston kind of flying the Māori flag back then. And I kind of just wondered, was that ever a kind of like a burden or a hassle, or like this is a horrible kind of word to use, but like it was almost like a novelty, to see brown people playing football. And I kind of don't really feel like our sport's really moved that far here in New Zealand, especially. Just kind of, it's just your kind of, do you ever look back critically about that now being like in a heightened state of awareness where you are?
Well, I think at the time we were aware that there were 4 Māoris in the team. And, we kind of embraced it and tried to think, like, this is awesome, man. We need people to see that, people who look like us and like us can go and do this. And, we were obviously very proud of it. I had the boots, you get your stuff printed on the boots of the World Cup. I got Aotearoa, whāngai printed on them. Like, it's something that, and I think New Zealand's very different to a lot of countries as well. We really embrace for on a wider level, like the anthem is sung in both English and Māori. We embrace that. People do the haka, all the high schools and everything. It's more so than a lot of other places, but certainly, like you said, when I was growing up too, there, even in a place like Whangarei, there wasn't a whole lot of Māoris playing football. So I don't know how we change it. Obviously, some of those other sports, rugby and league and that are hugely popular, but there's a lot of talent. Now you see a couple more, obviously, Pacific Islanders as well, Bill Tuloma, he's playing boxy, out there. So we're getting more coming through. But you're right, it hasn't. I don't know the percentage. Has that grown? And I don't know. At least at a coaching level, Rory's involved with the national team now. I don't know if there's any or many other Māoris involved on that side of it. But when I was playing and when we were there, we were proud to, I guess, to represent our culture, and the team also embraced it. We had Phil Parker came over with us to the World Cup as like a cultural liaison almost, and he spoke to us a lot about our people and the importance of having representation there. So it's I never looked at it as a burden of any sort. Never looked at it as anything negative at all. It was like, this is cool, we have 4 Māoris. But again, when you look back on it, the fact that we're celebrating the fact that there's 4 Māoris on the team, like it's a unique kind of thing to have 4 of us. I guess that is there. And I never really felt too much about race growing up. Like I never really felt any kind of racism, certainly in New Zealand. But being here, you kind of notice that there are some people who are, a lot on that way. And I remember we played actually a game in the under-16 when we were in France. We played against Norway or someone like that, and a guy called me like, "You black," kind of thing. And I was like, "What?" Like I'd never been serious. And Sasha Nathan, I don't know if you guys know who he is. He was our goalkeeper at the time.
Yeah.
Big boy. And I was like, "Sasha, like this guy just did," and then Sasha like came up and the guy was like, "No, I'm sorry. That was kind of the first kind of time I'd ever really seen anything like aggressive, at least with it. Yeah, but who knows, man? Like it's weird times over here, and fortunately, my kind of group of friends and everything, a lot of diversity and stuff in it. So, you kind of see, you at least get to hear everyone's point of view and see it from their eyes. So there are issues, there are problems that are kind of deeply rooted in everything, but hopefully these things can kind of initiate some kind of change.
Just to change tack quickly, just got a few little odds and ends on Seamus's extensive list of notes to clean up before we let you get out of here.
That's my job.
So one of the suggestions we've had is to ask you how you spent your World Cup money.
Who asked that?
Look, we're not going to reveal our sources. Choose to answer, please.
I mean, I bought a house.
That's
and,
right.
yeah, I know. I mean, saved a lot of it. Like I didn't go out and kind of blow it. That I'm aware of.
That's not what our source had indicated. But look, hey.
Oh, really? What did you hear?
Nathan's an honest guy.
What?
A lot of bottle service at a club every night.
I did a little bit of that.
Okay, the other one is, have you ever bought a card or a present for a birthday, Christmas, Father's Day, or Mother's Day?
That's for my brother. The thing is, is that being on the other side of the world, and my brother lives obviously close to my parents, it just makes sense to me that I'm like, you get it and deliver it, and just obviously make it known that it's from the both of us. But he normally doesn't make it known that it's from the both of us, and we'll just put his name in the card and then like send me a photo of it or something. He's like, "Mum says thanks for the card," and it'll just be from him. So admittedly, I'm terrible at like remembering stuff like that. At least here I can blame the time difference. I'm like, oh shit, we're like a date. I didn't realize like the date's different over here. But I'm terrible at remembering things like that. My mum and dad, it was their anniversary yesterday, and my dad sent like a message in a family chat saying, thanks, happy anniversary to us.
Just speaking of your dad, I read in an article that he was an All Black trialist, and then I watched a YouTube clip where I think you were going to code on Māori television, and you were like, yeah, he never had an All Black trial. He was talking shit the whole time. Which is it? Is it truth or fact or fiction?
Complete fiction. I mean, he used to tell us that all the way growing up. He was like, yeah, All Black trial. And my dad, he's probably 5'10" if he's lucky, and he's got a little bit on him. And so I assume, okay, well, you're like a prop. He's like, nah, first 5. Huh? It's like first 5. And you can't kick, so I always had questions. I'm like, hey, maybe the talent pool wasn't as big back then. But then, come to find out, I was probably in my 20s when my mum was like, no, he's definitely But all my life, I would tell people, my dad was an All Black trialist.
Well, it's in black and white in an article that I think it was the article which said that you'd been selected for the World Cup squad was like Father John All Black trialist or something like that.
My mum was a much better athlete. My mum represented Canterbury in hockey and was a sprinter and stuff. So I think she was more of the athlete than my dad. My dad was this is one thing that annoys me about my dad. My dad was in a band when he was young. He plays the guitar. He's he can sing, but he can listen to the radio and just obviously strum. He's Maori, but he would strum along to anything. And I would always be like, Dad, why would you have not taught me how to play the guitar when I was 6? Imagine how much cooler I'd be.
Could have got the acoustic at parties. Yeah,
exactly. Never taught me. So,
basketball and cricket rep as a youngster as well.
Yeah, man. I used to. I tell kids this now. Play every sport you can. I love basketball. There was this New Zealand select kind of team, and I used to play point guard. And me and Lindsay Tate were on the same team, and we played together. He was obviously much better, but he and I were on the team. And then when I went to, I can't remember when, but I stopped playing basketball and obviously focused on football, and made the right decision because I didn't grow an inch from that day. And he, jumped up. We were the same height at that age, and he jumped up to tour. And he's an awesome guy. Used to see him around Auckland a few times, and he was obviously had a great career and a really, really cool guy too. So fun to play. I was never good at cricket. I don't think. I played for Northland, but I wasn't great at cricket. I can accept that.
But one of your real passions was BMX or rollerblading? Which one of those two?
I did do a little bit of BMX once. One day, 5 races, 2 last place, or 2 DNFs, and 3 first places.
Yeah, the track can be a ruthless place.
My brother told me these 3 little bumps at the end, and I'd be way out ahead, and I'd try and go too fast and fall off, and then everyone would go past me. And then after the first 2, my brother was like, when you get to those bumps, why don't you just slow down? You're ahead of everyone. I said, no, that's not a bad idea. So then did that and won 3, and then hung up my my wheels. What do you call it? I don't know.
Hang up helmets.
Yeah. Helmets. Hang up my folks.
Oh, that's great. How are we looking, Shay? I think that's my list is looking.
Yeah. Look, I guess the only other thing, and this is maybe a parting kind of comment from a former staffer that you work with, and maybe testament to your character, that you were not the ringleader, but you were often central to a lot of All Whites culture. There are a lot of Jeremy Christie stories I'd like to share, but I can't go into any great detail. All I'll say is that they were good times.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, I was definitely bullied and I gave it to peer pressure a lot. Let's say that. So if certain people would come up with an idea and then force me to do it, I'd normally give in and do it. But that my time certainly with the All Whites is something that I the best moments of certainly a career is with that group of guys, that group of players. I played, I think, essentially all the way through Ricky's reign. And I also want to say, I know people say a lot of things about Rick, but he gave me an opportunity. The All Whites gave me an opportunity with the Phoenix, and that took me to a World Cup. And when he first came in, I hadn't been there before, but the culture was amazing that he kind of brought in, and jersey presentations before every game, and I think he changed a lot of that. So I know he gets a lot of stick, but I think he did a lot of things, and a lot of people have said things about him, but he gave most people an opportunity. Some took it, some maybe didn't feel like they got enough of an opportunity, but he did good things for me. And the environment that he created, coaching and everything aside, the environment that we had in that team was always pretty special. And that obviously comes from the players and stuff. And those guys, lifelong friends, all of those guys, like brothers to me. We have a group thread that people are on all the time. And it's hearing the podcast you guys have been doing with some of those guys, especially some of the ex-players. I I love listening to them, and it makes me reminisce, especially now being over here. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind a little bit. I don't see a lot of what's going on back in New Zealand. So to hear, Brocky telling some stories and Brady and those guys, it certainly puts a smile on my face, and I love sitting and listening to those things. So, I know that in New Zealand, it's like the fishbowl, and people think that everything that's going on there, but just so you know, people outside of the country, people who are overseas and stuff, everyone like misses those times with the New Zealand team. Certainly I do. I know other former players, we always talk about them a lot. So New Zealand's always like front of mind, and certainly the New Zealand football community and all that. It's something that I know we all want to try and do, and we're trying to organise reunions and see how we can all get back, because we all love those years. And going to a World Cup, I mean, you can't kind of even consider like that would have ever happened from where I was. So to do it with like your best friend was pretty special. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit now, but
no, go for it. It's your ep.
No, that's been great, mate. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a great podcast, and there's been so many great. You look back on your career, and there's just a lot of people haven't really reflected on their time, in a long form podcast like this. So it sort of brings up a lot of feelings, perhaps, that they didn't know they had. But it's been great. I've really enjoyed it. Shay, last words?
No, awesome. Again, it's kind of this is a buzz for me, because, like I said, way back when we started, that 99 under-17s was kind of the beginning of my love affair with football, and here we are 21 years later talking about those cool times on the pitch, and still involved to this day. So thank you, Jeremy. Stay well over there, look after yourself, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys. I know it's 2:30 over there, so thanks for staying up. I know it was late, so appreciate it, guys. That was awesome.
All good.
Thanks, guys.